Hey, everybody out there. What's up? It's Saturday night and it's us again. Here we are.
If it's streaming, I just went in there and it's not there yet. Okay, it's there.
Well, yeah, your thing is just
it takes a while. It takes a while for everyone to get in and for all the damn choppiness to start.
Everyone to gather around.
They're all coming in now.
I tried to get everybody to gather around.
Yeah. There's fun coming in.
Oh, hi, Clay. Hi. Waiting for everybody to come and show up.
Here come all the comments. Xanada's there. What's up, my man?
Hey, Zach. Hey, you literally just started. I know you got here just in time. We haven't even talked about anything important yet. I mean, some people could argue that we probably never talk about anything important. But
my boy Zach's in. Melissa's in.
There's Melanie. There's
Thomas,
there's
Jenny.
Everybody.
Yeah.
There's Deborah. Yeah, I think she sent me a message earlier and said she was going to set her alarm. So I guess that worked out.
Seth. Okay, we're 7 in.
Zach says, Tom, you're such a nut job.
I'm a nut job? Yeah.
You are kind of.
Yeah.
He knows. He admits it.
And then they're all coming in.
All the way from Glasgow. Holy crap.
All right. Let's give them a few more minutes. Get them all showing up. Got 22 coming in.
Seattle in the house. Hi, fuzz butts.
Yeah.
Where is our little fuzz butt?
She's out playing. I got a collar on, so if she wants to take a break, I can let her out.
She can go out on the porch.
Yeah. Let's get this Keela rolling.
I like how now you're doing pouring the drinks actually on camera.
Pour the drink on camera. Complete.
It makes it way more exciting.
Yeah. It's like part of the ritual.
Xanada asked, what's the new picture behind you guys? Oh, yeah, we talked about it on the matinee, but I don't think we had it for last episode.
Oh, we didn't have it for last episode?
I don't think so, because we just got it this week, right?
Yeah, unless he's mistaken it for a new picture. But
that is, Sophie, friend of the show, who's also stayed with us last year. I think it was last year.
Yeah.
She sent Tom that for his birthday. That is a Frank Frazetta.
Yeah, and it's on canvas. That's not a poster.
The Barbarian, and it's on canvas.
It's a portrait of me and Jenny.
Our essences.
Yeah.
As Tom pointed out.
But Frazetta.
Yeah. I mean, we might have had it by last week, because I thought I remembered thanking Sophie on last week's show. Yeah. I try to keep track of everybody that I'm supposed to thank on the show, because I thank him in the week too, but then I like to thank him on the main show.
Maybe he didn't see it last week. Maybe he didn't see the show last week.
Yeah, maybe not. So yeah, I think what the hell? What did we talk about last week? I don't even remember. Oh, we did the auditory stuff, bloop and everything like that. And like I said, I'm afraid to go back and listen to that show, because we were so hammered by the end. It's I probably only talked about the topic for maybe half an hour total, and the show was almost 4 hours long. We went off on so many tangents, you guys. Yeah. What else is new?
Zach's asking about, Tom, where'd you get that video about the people attacking the tanker with the song?
Don't look at me.
I don't know what tankers he's talking about.
Me, I don't know.
He must be talking about those riots when everybody jumped on that damn 18-wheeler and they were playing the song. I don't know, man. I just sent it to you. That shit's on YouTube.
He doesn't remember anything.
I don't remember all that shit. People send me stuff and then I share it.
5 minutes later, he doesn't remember anything.
Yeah. No, I remember. I remember. It's just that, you know what I mean? There's a lot of y'all out there, and they keep me on top of things. People sharing stuff with me. A lot of times you guys will share something with me and somebody just shared it already, sent it to me just, 5 minutes before. So I just stay on top of things just with people sharing. And then if it's good, I share it to everybody else.
Because you're magnanimous like that.
Yeah.
Raymond McDonald says, interestingly, I was just about to watch Citizen X and then I got your notification. That's spooky. You know what's weird? I was just watching Citizen X right before we started recording, because I only found out, I've been researching the case that we're going to talk about, which in case you hadn't figured it out, is serial killer Andrei Chikatilo. And I just found out, I was hey, there was I think it was a TV movie, although there was a lot of swearing in it, so maybe not. That was made in 1995 about the case. It had Stephen Ray in it. Donald Sutherland was in it. Imelda Staunton was in it. There was all kind of famous people. Jeffrey DeMunn played Chikatilo. And I didn't finish it, but I watched most of it before we started. Actually quite a good movie. I was surprised. I feel like it needs more exposure.
DLJM says he's going to get drunk tonight. He's got I think Parma Violet Gin and Cherry Pepsi. Gin and Cherry Pepsi. I didn't know that would work.
That sounds kind of good.
I don't know. I have to see it myself.
I'm just like, I'm a big vodka advocate. I don't really like tequila. However, every now and then I get a wild hair and I want some gin. And I never have any at the house for whatever reason. I just like I don't know. It's like whenever we're at the liquor store, I'm like, man, that Bombay Sapphire looks kind of good. But it's like, I'm just like, I feel like I don't drink it often enough to justify buying the big bottle of the shit. But I do like it every now and then. But the only thing about gin is that if I decide one night when we're going out that it's like, oh, it's going to be a gin night because I'm in a gin kind of mood, drinking gin and tonics are very delicious, but if I drink more than 2 or 3 of them, I will throw up because they're so like acidic.
I can drink those all night long,
which is weird. It's like I can drink other stuff and not throw up and feel mostly fine.
They're refreshing. Gin and tonics with a little twist of lime are pretty refreshing.
They are, yeah.
And for some reason, you can get pretty hammered on them, and you don't look drunk. I don't really understand it. You don't act drunk.
Yeah, I guess. Like
it's
I said,
like an old man drink.
It is, yeah.
And
I like them now. I like gin.
You can drink a lot of them and they don't really affect you.
And then, but the nice thing about it is that even if you do puke, it smells nice, like juniper.
Yeah. It's like medicine. It's like medicine.
Every now and then, like once every couple months, I just feel like, man, tonight's going to be a gin and tonic night.
Yeah.
They're nicer because I drink them slower because I'm so used to drinking vodka that I can like hammer that back like pretty fast. But like gin and tonic is like so tart that I tend to drink them slower. But if I do drink more than 3, I'll probably barf.
They're asking me what's for dinner. I don't know what's for dinner yet. We had a snack before we started the show.
Yeah, just so we wouldn't drink on an empty stomach. He just made like some cheese sandwiches.
Cheese sandwich on pita.
Real quick.
Fried it in a pan with oil, butter.
Yeah.
So like a crispy pita bread.
Yeah, it was delicious.
With cheese. It's Monterey Jack and fucking cheddar. Mix in there,
we don't know
like
what
a cheese sandwich.
It's funny because last night it was Friday night, and we didn't have anything to do particularly, so we watched a new movie which we will probably be reviewing tomorrow. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but so after that we were kind of like, well, we're a little bit inebriated, so we just went back to watching the UK Kitchen Nightmares on Tubi because those are like really comforting. I don't know why, even though we've seen them like a whole bunch of times.
Kind of like watching the old hauntings,
it's just like something you don't have to like super pay attention to it because you kind of know what's going to happen, and it's like then every now and then like Gordon will say something really funny, and like he'll get in a fight with one of the owners and they'll be like plunker twat, you know what I mean? It's like very funny.
You sit there and trip out over what some dude believed, some bullshit some dude believed. You know what I mean? What he thought he was going to do.
Yeah.
That shit. Like, how could you think that would happen?
So we started watching that, and then like while we were watching it, it was so funny because I think we were watching the Curry Lounge episode, and like all the Indian food that like Gordon was making on there. I was like,
I'm gonna make that.
God, I'm gonna make Indian food tomorrow and stuff. And then this morning he comes into my office and he's like, we were really drunk last night. What did we see on the show that I was gonna make today? Because he couldn't remember. I said it must have been some kind of Indian food because we were watching the Curry Lounge episode.
What's funny is that I'm out of chicken. And I don't have anything like lamb. If I were to make Indian food, it had to be with like beef or pork. So it would be like totally forbidden Indian food.
Oh, well.
Shit that an Indian would not eat.
Yeah,
I've had it before though, man. Fucking like beef curry and pork curry is fucking really good.
Yeah, it's good. Really it's not real authentic, I guess. But
for Thailand, it would be.
Yeah, if you do it more like in a Thai kind of style, you can get away with it.
Hindus don't eat either.
I feel like. The thing about it, we don't get, they do sell lamb here at the grocery store, but it's not real common. Like usually, you can go and get lamb chops, but that's about it. So I really like lamb actually. So we don't make lamb a lot at home. So whenever we go, before the pandemic and everything, we used to go to Memories of India. One of the best things they made was lamb korma. And I would get that like every single time just because everything else they serve is good, but it's like you can make it. And it's just as good or better than what the restaurant has. But we don't do a lot of lamb. So whenever I go there, I always get lamb korma because their lamb korma is amazing. And that's like one of the only things that we never figured out how to replicate. I don't know why. I don't know how they make it, but it's fucking delicious.
Okay, we've got 36 in and we're 10 minutes into the show. Let's go ahead and start our introduction. Shout outs and stuff like that.
Okay. Let's see. We got, like I said, a lot of these shout outs I think I already did like on some of the various live streams.
And by the way, today's show, Andrei Chikatilo.
Chikatilo.
Yeah.
one of the worst serial killers.
Yeah, Russian one
in the world, really, like world history.
He's an asshole.
Yeah, well, he's dead now, so that's okay. They executed his ass. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about that guy. Holy crap. Okay, so we're gonna do some shout outs. Like I said, these I think I've already done on various other live streams. But in case you didn't catch those, wanted to give a thank you to Louis for sending us some movies. He sent us The Terminator and like a Blu-ray, like special edition, and also sent us, I think, The Secrets in Her Eyes, which I haven't watched yet, but it's like I've been wanting to see that because I don't think I've seen it yet. Not that I remember. I've seen a lot of movies, but I don't remember seeing that one. So thank you very much for that. Also wanted to thank Logan for a PayPal donation. Thank you very much. Also, we have a new patron named Mark N. And also one of our previous patrons, Sydney, has doubled their support. So thank you very much for that. And like I said, thanks again, Sophie, for sending us the Conan thing back there. Well, we can't call it Conan. Conan.
It's just the barbarian. Yeah.
Because he's just a generic barbarian.
Well, Frazetta didn't have rights to fucking the what's his name estate for Conan. But he did do all the artwork and all the stuff for the movies and the books. So
yeah.
It's Conan.
Zach says, did I see the pictures where Chikatilo had his dick out? I did indeed. Well,
was there anything there?
Well, it was kind of like a little bit above that, or it was like, it was like fuzzed out a little bit.
Okay.
I'll get into that a little bit, but one of the speculations, well, not even speculation, because he did actually kind of say this himself, but the reason why he became a serial killer, because he didn't really become a serial killer until a little bit later than a serial killer would normally become a serial killer. Was because he was impotent.
Right. So you didn't have a choice.
Evidently. I mean, that's kind of how he played it. I feel like he's just like, well, my dick didn't work the way that it was supposed to, so I just had to kill people. So
right.
Because that's how that works.
That's how that shit works, I guess.
I suppose.
Fucking right. That's some crazy shit.
I don't know, man. This dude was a fucking lunatic. He's a fucking lunatic. But like I said, I found him interesting because he didn't start until later in life, which, like I said, is unusual.
That's the end of the shout outs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we got the screens for the shirts done.
Yeah, we burned the screens yesterday.
So we're gonna have 4 new ones. Why don't you do we have those handy and a piece of paper? I'll show them what's coming because there's a lot of people on right now.
Get the box.
Yeah.
Now the main one that we're doing.
Yeah.
Is the logo one. I'm very proud of this logo one.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I'm making some for me that have this on it, like in like various colors and whatnot.
White piece of paper so you guys can see.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, in case I think we showed these before, but not on the main show.
Actually, if I reverse it.
Well, then you can see it the way. Yeah, it's gonna be white on black, obviously.
Yeah. It's going to be white on black. And that's going to be our new logo. It's going to be a full size shirt.
Yeah, that's going to be like the main 13 o'clock shirt.
Okay.
That we're running with at the moment.
And then we're going to have a bunch of bonus stuff.
And then we have these ones too.
This is 2 shirts. Okay.
It's backwards.
Won't be backwards on the screen because it reverses everything.
Okay, yeah, duh.
Remember?
Yeah. Now this little box up here, that's what's going to be on the back of
Yeah, that's going to be back in your shoulder blades.
Yeah.
It'll be that's our label. And then there's a Wayland Utani and then a Wayland Corp. That's 2 different shirts. I'll probably do those like in a
I just shot them on one
light blue or light green to make it look like a little digital display or something. That's
we were actually looking for some lime green, but they didn't have any.
They didn't have any.
We went to Michael's, but they didn't have. They had blue and red, but they didn't have any green.
And this was going to be some badass shit. You guys are going to like this. We're going to give this out too.
Yeah.
Get it? You get it? That's some bootleg shit there because that's the Ford Cobra logo. We just put Pliskin in that shit.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to get in trouble as long as I don't sell them. If we
Right.
just kind of like give them away.
So, some people, depending on what your contributions are, you're going to get several shirts on this shipment. Because we had some people when we first started streaming sending us $100 fucking chats, super chats. You guys are going to get several shirts.
Yeah, because I got like a bunch of extras, so I'm going to sort out like, because some people are going to get like more than one, and we actually told people like that we were going to
get that Bombay Sapphire, Jay. Thank you very much.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Chat. I might next time I'm at the liquor store. I'm always tempted.
He's a subscriber. He's a patron.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got shit coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Dan, right, Dan?
Yeah.
That's Dan. Yeah. You're in the UK, yes?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay.
If we're gonna send some shit to UK, we'll probably send several shirts at a time because it works out on shipping.
Well, yeah, might as well because
Might
you got
as
to
well
pay
send
for the
some
shipping
shit.
anyway, and I have
Right.
to go inside the post office.
Right. So
with everyone's cooties,
we're behind. We're gonna be taking care of all patrons and people that fucking send us big super chats.
Yeah, because like I said, I feel bad that we missed because I used to do them every quarter, but we had problems with the fucking
pandemic,
and we couldn't get the shirts, and then because Jiffy Shirts had shut down for a little while, their factory, and then we couldn't get to Michael's to get the paint and all this other kind of.
But I got all four. I got all 4 screens done.
Yeah, they're all
and
done.
A huge box of fucking shirts here. And
Yeah.
Jenny and I are gonna get here and we're start printing these damn shirts.
Yep, we got to do that.
I'm gonna cook that shit up. I'm gonna cook it up like crack. Like crack.
Yeah, you want us to send you some crack too? No, we don't have any crack. I'm just letting crack. All right. Do you want to start talking about the serial killer?
Somebody says I already have Pliskin. Not this Pliskin. This is a brand new design.
It's like I said, the one that I did one for the Zazzle store, which you had one of those, and it
fell apart.
It's really weird because I have a whole bunch of shirts that I ordered from Zazzle, and none of them did that to the same extent. And you didn't really wear that or wash that any more than any of the ones that I had.
Fell fucking apart. So I said, man, I gotta get
very strange
a badass fucking Snake Plissken shirt. And you see, for that first Snake Plissken design that we made for Zazzle, we couldn't play any games with copyrighted shit. So that's not the design that I wanted. This one I just showed you, that was the one I had originally envisioned. Isn't that right, Jenny?
Yeah.
The Ford Cobra logo with just said Pliskin. And I thought that's a fucking awesome. And so it just evokes Snake Plissken.
Yeah.
But they won't let you do that on Zazzle because that Cobra is copyrighted.
Well, yeah, it's copyrighted. So if you try to upload something that is a copyrighted logo or something like that, they'll be like, hey, you can't do that.
And then the Alien and Prometheus Wayland and Wayland Yutani shirts, that's fucking, a lot of people copy those. They're not copyrighted.
Yeah, I've seen a ton of those because I feel like that's the thing. It's like if you invent a company in your movie universe, and you have a logo for that, is that really copyrighted automatically, or do you have to see? I thought not.
I don't think it is,
because you can make for instance, I made a shirt based on Dead Ringers that just said Mantle Brothers or Mantle Twins Fertility Clinic or whatever. I didn't use any stills from the movies. I just used something that evoked that. But you can do that as far as I know.
They have to go through the process of copyrighting shit.
Right.
And you see, and if they don't, then it's open. No, that's my understanding of it.
That's what I thought.
Now,
too.
Here's another
I'm not
thing.
a copyright lawyer, but
here's another design that I want. We'll do this in the next couple of months. I want a Canon Films fucking print and do a shirt like that.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I wrote down Canon Films and MTV logo.
Yeah, and we'll put 13 o'clock in the fucking back, but we'll also get one out for Canon Films. And if you remember the Canon Films logos, I think you guys would probably like that.
Thing like that with the 3 lines.
Real retro 80s fucking shit.
Yeah. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you very much.
Let's see what everybody's saying.
Do you want to start talking about serial killers or not? Or are you not ready yet?
It's 34 people in there. We can go.
All right.
We can go.
Now, we're talking about Andrei Chikatilo. Like I said, one of the
guys ready to start the show?
One of the worst serial killers in world history, probably.
Should I bring Dennis in here?
That's what we'll see. You should have done that before, because before we went live,
let me get Dennis.
He was just I feel like maybe Dennis might need to weigh in on the topic, especially because there's a large sexual component to these crimes.
Well, Jenny, I'm really happy that you brought me on the show.
Thank you, Dennis.
I'm ready to talk about this guy, Chikatilo. I'm gonna let you handle most of it, Jenny. But
thank you, I appreciate that.
Because I trust your expertise.
All right.
But I'll be here for any input. If you need anything, just holler.
I definitely will. I will holler for you, Dennis.
How you doing, Tom? Man, fuck you, dude. I'll talk to you, man. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. No, man, you're always fucking simping on Jenny. Stop fucking simping. Simping ain't easy.
I love how you can just see his little bobbly head, right there at the bottom.
Simping ain't easy. Wish I had a place where I could put him so he could be up here. Is there anything I could sit right here?
Let's see. Do we have something we could sit?
Oh, I'll put him up on my can.
There you go.
Put him up on my can.
Put him on the can.
Put him up on my can. So he'll be right
there.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
his little head going. He's like more prominent than we are. That's so messed up. Free speech for Dennis. Bee's Nest movie says Tom must be buzzing already.
Yeah,
No,
just starting to kick in, man.
he's just. It's funny because
I went back on my Rad 140 cycle, so I'm feeling fucking good.
That's good. That's good.
I'm on therapeutic doses. Rad 140 MK and MK.
Yeah, you were kind of like doing something with it because you were
Yeah.
trying to.
Yeah.
Because you were kind of sore from your last.
Yeah, and
one.
my shoulder was bothering me, so I said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna hit some of that Rad, fucking get that shit healed up." So I'm just gonna fucking. I'm not gonna do full cycles like I did before. I'm just gonna fucking use it therapeutically to repair damage that I do to myself. I hurt myself.
Oh,
I hurt myself all the time. Let's go ahead and get to the show, though, man. I'm getting drunk. I'm getting sidetracked on the damn
you
show.
can't be drunk already. You've literally drunk like half.
No,
not even half an inch.
It's just started to hit. No, it just started to hit me.
Okay.
I'm just starting to feel good.
Yours, yeah, we're only like 21 minutes in. You were going to be incoherent
I'm
by
gonna be
the end
fine.
of this.
Be fine. It was strong. This one was pretty strong.
Well, yeah, the one you made for me was really strong too.
Yeah.
I took a sip out of it when
Yeah.
you brought it in here. I was like, holy crap.
It's all right. Just kind of getting warmed up for the show.
Like all
getting revved
vodka
up.
with like a little squirt of apple juice
Getting
in this
revved up
fucking
for the
mason
show.
jar.
You're just trying to put on a good show for these people.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I hurt myself all the time is a great song title, says Zach. I know, I just want to play that 9 Inch Nails song. It's like so fucking sad. All right, so Andrei Chikatilo, a Ukrainian-born Soviet-era serial killer. Now, he actually ended up confessing to 56 murders of women and children between 1978 and 1990, and was actually ended up being convicted of 53 of these murders, and he was executed in 1994. But he ran rampant for quite a long time. A lot of that had to do with, him just being a serial killer, picking people at random. But some of that had to do with, Soviet era bureaucracy, the fact that they didn't really want to acknowledge that there was a serial killer running around because that was kind of like not a thing that was happening, or at least that's what they wanted people to think. I'm not sure.
They didn't want that to mar fucking the socialist utopia of having a fucking serial killer running around the middle of the Soviet Union. They didn't want to admit that. And plus, another thing is you have to understand the mentality of the day. I grew up during that era. So did you, but you know what I mean? I had kind of a military and government angle on it, even when I was a kid, coming from the kind of family that I came from, which was all State Department stuff. When you're dealing with the Soviet Union, they were totalitarian. They would never admit publicly to the people that they didn't have a rap on everything.
Yeah.
So this whole thing about, well, we got this guy raping women, young, pretty Russian girls, and we can't catch him. The party would never admit to that because their whole claim to fame was knowing what you thought. That's how fucking micromanagers these dudes were. They claimed to know what you were thinking. And, the fucking Soviet Empire and the Eastern Germany, it was a rat culture. All they did was rat on each other. Fucking when Eastern Europe collapsed, we got our hands on all that fucking intelligence data from Eastern Europe, the Stasi. And it turned out 66 to 68% of the Eastern Germans had ratted on the other ones.
Yeah.
On everybody else. They were just rats, And
well, it really did foster that environment of trying to like save your own ass by like narking on other people.
A commie is a rat, a tattletale, and a fucking narc. That's what they do. All right. And to come forth and say that there's a damn serial killer and nobody's ratting him out is an admission of weakness. So like I said, that was something. I mean, once it got to a point where they couldn't hide it anymore, to their credit, they did actually get in there and try to solve the shit. But it did take them a really long time to get to the point where they were, one, willing to admit that there was a serial killer running around and they knew that it was the same person because the MO was very distinctive. But, they were very reluctant to ask for help, like, ask the FBI for help because the FBI were, several years ahead in their profiling and all that other type of stuff. So, the fact that happened did lead to them taking a very long time to catch him. Although, like I said, once it got to a point where they couldn't really ignore it anymore, they did actually go
about doing things in a normal way that we would actually do it every year.
And yes, to answer your question, I do love the movie Doctor Strangelove.
That's an awesome movie.
It's a fucking masterpiece.
No fighting in the war room.
And it is not a story. That is a fucking documentary. Fucking Doctor Strangelove is a documentary. All right. And it has some of the best cast of all times. Yeah, it does have some comedy and comedic, but that's true. That's it. That's what the Cold War was.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And it's interesting because I was just, before we started recording, I was watching the movie Citizen X, and they do go a lot into, even though some of the characters are fictionalized or kind of like, a put together, kind of a bunch of different people like put into one character. They do go a lot into like the bureaucracy behind it and why it took so long to catch them. And it's like they were, how the ruling party was more worried about, optics than they were worried about catching the person. So it was, it was a fairly accurate movie, even though, like I said, they did fictionalize some things. Now, so as I said, now Chikatilo has been known by various kind of splashy nicknames, the Butcher of Rostov or the Rostov Ripper, because that was where most of his crimes took place. So let's kind of talk about his upbringing. So he was born in, please forgive me, any Russian listeners, I am sure I'm going to mangle every single name and every single city name and every single victim name. And I apologize for that in advance because I know no Russian whatsoever. So he's born in this kind of small village called Let me see. Yabloknoye? Yabloknoye? I guess that's sort of close.
Something like that, yeah.
So, yes, which was in the Ukraine. Now, when he was born, this was not too long after Stalin's, collectivization of agriculture, because the Ukraine at the time was, the breadbasket of the Soviet Union. So there was like a lot of farms there. And, all of the crops and stuff like that would be taken. So there was a lot of famine. And it had slightly improved by the time that Andrei was born, but still he grew up kind of in the aftermath of that. So one thing that, no one is sure if this is true, but apparently this was something that Andrei's mom told him whenever Andrei was being bad, was that, hey, it was either his brother that was like, before he was born, or a cousin or something. He got taken by the neighbors and eaten, like he was cannibalized. So it's like, you better like watch your P's and Q's or that'll end up happening to you. Like, because everyone's starving. So it's like they're going to eat you. Yeah,
that's not bullshit. There was actually
war. I just don't know if that particular kid, if that happened, or if that was just something they were telling him.
That was in Russian Soviet era culture, especially in prison. They had a big old fucking war breakout inside Russian prisons called the Bitch Wars. And in the Bitch Wars,
I love that.
The Bitch Wars.
That should be a band name.
The Bitch Wars were about guys who were released from prison to fight the Nazis in World War II. And after the war was over, they were sent back to prison because they fucking broke the deal with them. Instead of giving them their freedom like they promised them, like, you fight the war, we'll free you. No, Stalin sent them back to prison. And they went back to prison. The bitches and the fucking regular convicts went to war. It lasted a long time, and cannibalism was like thousands, tens of thousands of people were eaten in Russian prisons during the Bitch Wars.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's like, you can't really blame people if you don't if they don't have any food. What the fuck else are they supposed to do? And it was like, that's what happened in this situation too. It's not good.
I think in Russian prisons they had food. It's just that they wanted bonus food, and they were already pretty mean. And why if you're going to kill an adversary in prison, why waste all that meat? So they were eating them. Well,
yeah, like I said, just like in the cartoons, every time somebody walked by, they looked like a big old chicken. I
think that was happening out in the country too, fucking when the Soviet Union was cracking down on all those kulaks. And then the kulaks were under so much pressure, they became like these wild ass fucking hillbillies. And evidently they were eating people that they didn't like too. Cannibalism is a part of fucking communism. North Korea is rife with cannibalism, especially during that damn, that 10-year period after the fucking death of Kim Il-sung back in the 90s. Evidently, their population contracted a lot during that time because The economy had collapsed. They couldn't feed anybody, and whole towns were starving to death. People were eating their children. Brutal shit.
Yeah.
We have so much to thank. You know what I mean? We have so much to be thankful for living in the fucking West. Those totalitarian societies are bad. You know what I mean? They're not well-meaning, and then when they fuck up, I mean, they just don't give a shit. These people fucking kill each other and eat each other. I mean, imagine if you had a government that just sees you as a drain on their system and you're just excess population. They're like, fuck you, we're not going to feed you anymore. No issue for you. You know what I mean? That's happening in fucking, what's the place in down Central America where that's happening right now? That's happening right now. It starts with an N. Nicaragua, right? No. It's not Nicaragua. The one that had, shit, you guys can help me out. I'm getting drunk. I'm forgetting who it was.
Holy crap.
Venezuela.
It's so early. That doesn't even start with an N.
I don't know. They're all the same.
I don't know.
Venezuela.
All the countries.
I was thinking Nicaragua, Venezuela.
It's not the United States.
Yeah, Venezuela's fucking bad too. There's cannibalism going on there also. Just a couple of years ago, they were fighting the cops and eating cops and shit. It was fucking wild shit, man. Centralized economies don't work, especially when they're run by idiots.
And most of the world is
and most of the world's a bunch of fucking idiots. Yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, I'm not saying that cannibalism didn't happen, because obviously it did.
Venezuela, see, yeah.
Yeah.
Zanada knows exactly what I'm talking about. Me and Zanada, I'm fucking walking him through his fucking first AR build. He's building a fucking badass little AR. Got a little booster coming and everything. Go ahead.
But yeah, so just nobody knows if that particular kid was cannibalized or if that was just something that the parents told him, like, to get him to behave. So they obviously were very poor, like many people were at the time, and lived in a one-room hut and farmed. Thank you very much, Zach.
Yeah, Zach's asking me a question. Have you ever heard of
Nazino Island? That's actually, somebody asked me about that. It's
No.
a cannibalism thing.
Yeah.
I actually have that on the list as a topic to do, like, eventually.
All right, we'll look into it.
We'll probably get to it before the end of the year, I would imagine, because it's coming up on my list, because somebody asked me about it before. I don't remember if it was you or if it was somebody else, but somebody did ask me about that.
Someone from Serbia is saying, how you doing, bro?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Ectoplasm
From Serbia.
I love it. Yeah, so this is a very small place that they live. It's like a little shack. He slept in the same bed with his parents. Now, interestingly, he was a bedwetter up until his teenage years. Now, as we've pointed out many times on this show before, bedwetting is one of what they call the McDonald triad, which, is an indicator that the person will become a serial killer later on in life. The other two things, one thing is bedwetting, one thing is arson, and one thing is cruelty to animals. However, I think maybe in his case, now, every source that I read about him didn't say this, but a couple of them did. There were a couple of sources that said that Andrei might have been born with hydrocephalus, otherwise known as water on the brain. And apparently one of the side effects of this is like kind of spinal deficient, because it like fucks with your spinal fluid and, the fluid around your brain and whatnot. So that might have been the cause of the bedwetting. And it also might have been the cause of his him not being able to maintain an erection later in life, which is one of the things that probably paved the way toward him being a serial killer. So this might have actually had a physical cause. I'm not so sure about because like I said, it's a very common thing for serial killers when their kids to be bedwetters. I think it's more usually in those cases, I think it more has to do with anxiety issues and, things of that, like more psychological issues. But in this case, it might have been something that was actually physically wrong with him. And the same thing that caused the bedwetting might have also caused him to not be able to.
I don't understand bedwetting. What is this? You're just sitting up in bed and you go, fuck it, man. I got to take a leak, but I'm not getting up.
Well, no, they're sleeping.
So you just let it out.
They're sleeping. It's
so
usually
if you're asleep and you piss on yourself, is that some kind of a choice that your subconscious is making?
See, I'm not sure, because whenever so this is like maybe TMI, but whenever I'm sleeping and, and I have to pee.
You get up.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I start dreaming that
About
I'm
having-
looking for a bathroom.
Yeah.
But every bathroom I find either has like creepy serial killers in it or is too disgusting to use, which I think is my brain's way of saying, hey, dummy, wake up. You have to pee.
For me,
Every single time. So whenever I know that I start dreaming that I find a bathroom and it's like this disgusting, it's like, it looks like the Train Spotting bathroom.
Yeah.
If you guys have seen that, then that's my brain's way of saying, hey, get up. You have to go to the bathroom.
Jenny can be my witness. I mean, when I gotta take a leak, I just wake up and go fucking take a leak. I don't even think about it. I'll wake up and then go throw up and then get back in bed. Like it didn't even
like
happen.
nothing happened.
Like it didn't even happen. She's got a fear of throwing up. I enjoy throwing up. I fucking brace myself. Here it comes. Here it comes. Oh, that felt good. That felt good. Now
I
say
mean-
something to Jenny. Jenny, I'll be done in a minute. Gotta go back in.
Yeah, because you can hear it. From
Yeah, you can hear
we
it.
have a big bathroom.
Yeah.
We have one of those bathrooms where it's.
There's a place where you take baths and showers.
Well,
and
the
then
weird
there's a
thing
restroom.
about our house,
We have a
I don't-
restroom in the bathroom.
I don't think that I've ever seen another house with this. I'm sure there must be another. Because it's the master suite, if you want to call it that. But where the main part of the bathroom, there's like the sinks and the mirror, and then there's like a bathtub
And then
and a
there's the
stand-up shower.
Yeah.
But that part doesn't have a door. So like
Yeah.
from the bedroom into that part,
Yeah,
it's
you
just like an
fucking-
arch.
Yeah.
So when you're like just in the shower, so this is like if people come over, they have to
Yeah.
like leave the whole room because
Yeah.
it's like if you're in the shower, everyone's gonna see you. Like in
we
the
should
bedroom.
put a curtain up there.
We probably should.
But then
But
we
it's
have
the actual toilet
then the
is
toilet's in
in
a room.
like the little
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
toilet and that's it.
And then we got a fucking closet for two that's like the size of a small bedroom.
Yeah, like a walk-in.
Yeah,
Now that has a
yeah.
pocket door, but we
Yeah.
don't ever close that because why the fuck?
And
would
Pookie
you?
loves that fucking closet.
That's her room.
Yeah, she thinks that's her room. Yeah.
Yeah, because she just goes in there and
You go in there and
plays
she
on
fucking wanna
everything.
play with
You
you.
go in there after the shower
Yeah.
and she's just like, "Hey, throw wet towels on me. Hey, sit on the floor. Hey,
You
roll
throw a
around."
towel on her and she fucking
She
loves
loves that shit. I don't know
Roll
why.
around in a towel.
She's so weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. Like I feel like, well, the thing about it is that kids that wet the bed a lot, it usually, like I said, normally it's to do with abuse or anxiety issues or something like that. So it usually, so I don't know if it's so much bedwetting itself that's pointing to somebody like maybe becoming a serial killer, but bedwetting is like a side effect of other things that might make you a serial killer later on, like, you know, sexual abuse in your family or, you know, high stress, high anxiety, other things like that. But I'm just saying, I don't know if this is true or not. I think in Chikatilo's case, the bedwetting, which continued into his adolescence, was maybe due to a physical issue that he had that was also causing his impotence. Because, like I said, it does mess with your spinal fluid, which can cause like urinary problems and problems with your your urinary tract and stuff like that, which would actually suggest that maybe that's something to do with it. But because he was a bedwetter and he slept in the same bed as his parents, every time that it happened, his mom would beat the shit out of him. So, you know, not a good situation. And also, like I said, he grew up thinking that his older brother had been eaten by the neighbors. So now,
whether or not it actually happened, nobody knows.
whether or not no one knows if it actually happened or not. Like I said, I'm not arguing that it didn't happen to other people because it did, but I just don't know if it happened to his particular relative, but he believed that it did anyway. Now, I will note that as much as
you would think if it was true, they would have fucking exacted revenge on the neighbors.
Yeah, you would think.
Somebody ate my kid, I'd fucking kill you.
Well, yeah, most people would.
Yeah,
Understandably.
They probably just made that shit up.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that was one because it was something that was going on.
Yeah.
Maybe like the mom was like, "Hey, you better behave." It's kind of like, it's fucked up, but it's like your parents like telling you, "Hey, the
boogeyman stuff.
Yeah, the boogeyman or the crazy person in town's going to come get you or something like that, or I'm going to put you in an asylum or shit like that." Like that's what people used to tell.
No, if you ate my kid, I'd fuck you up.
Well, yeah.
I might eat you. I might be like Hannibal Lecter. Right?
Well, that's what
you
I
ate
mean.
my sister, so I'm gonna eat you.
Yeah, piece by piece.
Piece by piece.
So you're still awake most of the time.
Right, something weird like that. If you fucked over Pookie, I'd fuck you up.
Well, yeah, we've said that multiple times.
Yeah,
well, like I said, and we were talking about this last night. I mean, Pookie is like our child.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
She's kind of like our child.
She's a member of the family.
Yeah.
Kind of child.
So it's like if anybody did anything to hurt her, I would not hesitate.
Yeah.
To just like
she's a member of the
mess you up.
family. I don't give a shit what the law says. This is about emotion. It's about emotion.
And nobody better say it was just a cat. It's not just a cat. She's like our kid. But yeah, so now I should note that even though Andrei Chikatilo had a intensely fucked up childhood, however, given the time period and what was going on at the time, a lot of people had really fucked up childhoods. And I will note that the vast majority of them did not become serial killers. So again, I'm going down the road of it's like, it's not good to have a fucked up childhood, but I feel like there has to be that extra thing that'll make because some people have more messed up childhoods than this and they turn out more or less okay. So I feel like there has to be some kind of other.
Damn, Tom would eat someone. Yeah, he'd eat someone too to survive. And say like, you know what I mean? Like some of these situations where people are out in the wild and it's fucking freezing and you can't get food. Like they're on top of the mountains of fucking Argentina. Remember that book? That was in Chile.
Yeah.
Alive. Yeah, most people would.
Well, if you would do what you had to do.
You do what you have to do to survive.
And they didn't kill anyone.
No.
They just ate people that had died in the crash or had died in like.
If I killed somebody and ate them, it wouldn't be for any kind of sexual purposes. It would just be hate or vengeance. I can understand that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But not. Most of these fucking weird ass cannibals, it's almost a sexual thing though.
Yeah, and I definitely think it was in this situation.
Right.
Because this dude.
Cannibalism is extremely fucking. Look, cannibalism is very, very common in African warfare. I mean, even recently, fucking dudes fucking kill each other and cut their hearts out and eat them to gain their strength. And, I mean, it's a tribal concept. Some islanders kind of have, in recent times, have done this island tribes. And for them, it's kind of more of like a thing of humiliation. You eat a hated enemy so you could shit him out. Really, when you think about it.
Because it's going through your digestive tract. It's like the ultimate.
It's like the ultimate disrespect.
Right.
It depends on how your culture's gonna play it. You know what I mean? I mean, they have some cannibal cults in India right now that eat the dead, but it's a thing of respect more than it. It's a thing of respect, not really a thing of disrespect. It all depends on how you're rationalizing it culturally. I
kind of feel like if there's not a lot of food around and somebody died of natural causes, I don't blame people for eating that person.
There's a huge correlation between cannibalism and extreme poverty.
Yeah, and that is totally understandable. Right. Totally understandable. Right. Like I would never look at the Donner Party or somebody like that where they were in such a horrible situation that people were dying anyway. In that case, it would be dumb not to eat them. I mean, I know it's horrible and I know, it took a lot for them to get to that point. But if you were desperate enough, I don't blame them. They weren't killing people to eat them.
You can go on Google right now and just go look at Chinese communist cannibalism. And the Chinese are cannibals. In recent times, CCP members were cannibalizing people that they considered to be traitors. There is no taboo about cannibalism in China.
Well, meat's meat.
They eat,
I guess. And that's how you look at it.
There were reports as late as the late 80s of people in big masses, kind of like these rage mobs that you have now here in the U.S., busting into people's houses that they thought were not good communists and eating them. And that's verified. And some of these people doing the eating were the relatives of the people who were eaten. Okay. So politics were involved in that shit. People think that people don't understand fucking human nature and how bad human nature can be. You have moral panics and mass psychology. When that combines, and you're here in the United States, you should know what I'm talking about. The shit can go very wrong. Group psychology and moral panics. It doesn't go together well. Bad shit could happen. Bad shit could happen anywhere. But look up Chinese cannibalism. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Somebody asked if we were starving, would we eat Pookie? I don't like to think about that.
No, I wouldn't eat Pookie.
I would rather eat my own foot than eat Pookie.
Here's the deal.
I'll eat you before I'll eat Pookie.
You can go a long time without food. I've been a long time without food.
You can go about, 3 months people have lived without food. It's not fun.
Here's the thing. After about 3 days, you don't really feel that much hunger. Your body adjusts to it. You can starve to death pretty comfortably. It's not as bad as people think.
Yeah, like I feel like the worst hunger is like
it's in the first few days.
After
Right.
a while, it just goes away.
Yeah,
Somebody asked,
it
this is
really-
actually a funny question. I think Zach asked like up there. It's like, if you guys had to eat each other, what dish would you make out of each other?
Guys ask these fucking crazy ass questions. I think probably with my culinary knowledge and culinary expertise, cannibalism would probably go along real well with Indian spices. Indian food, because Indian food, and
I think my ass would be delicious.
It is.
In India.
I tried that shit. No. But it's those Indian spices can make all meat taste good, pretty much.
That's what I mean. It's like, if you know how to make it, it's like, it's not that gross.
But
I don't want to be.
You guys are fucking. You guys are
gross,
trying to go down these fucking weird ass fucking directions and shit, trying to get us to say.
I'm here for it. I love this kind of shit.
Yeah, this show's a fucking weird show.
But I'm a freak. I understand.
But you have to be kind of fucking open minded and global about this. You know what I mean? We talk about globalism. You know what I'm talking about? People eat other people. It's not as rare as you think. Certain cultures explain it in other ways. Usually it's tribal, usually it's extreme poverty, and it's about a loved one giving you their final possession, which is their body, as sustenance.
Well, I'm not using it anymore. If I'm not using it anymore.
Right. Now, some guys, African warlords and African fucking warriors, we're going to do a whole show on General Butt Naked. Okay. I'm a big admirer of fucking soldiers and generals and fucking warriors of all different cultural backgrounds. And my favorite African warrior is General Butt Naked. And General Butt Naked was a cannibal, and he also sacrificed a lot of children. All right. And then he turned away from all that and tried to become a good man. Became a preacher. But we need to do a show on General Butt Naked eventually. He was a cannibal too. I don't know.
We do a lot of cannibalism and necrophilia on this show. We didn't do that on purpose. It's just kind of.
And he was talking about sacrificing beautiful girl children and shit for victory in battle, and fucking. And
alrighty.
certain cultures are gonna interpret things a different way.
Well,
I think he regrets it. I think he sees the life, and I think he sees things differently now. But you can't impose Western values on everyone. There are certain people that do not come from Western societies, and they don't have those values. We're not all the same. That's the beauty of diversity, is that we're fucking different.
Well,
it doesn't always work out.
Of diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would rather have people being different and just like squabbling with each other.
Yeah.
Than everybody just being.
Yeah, but would I want to import millions of General Butt Nakeds into my fucking backyard? No.
I don't want that dude living.
They need to stay over there where they're at.
Like, don't
let them work that shit out.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, yes, my ass might be delicious with Indian spices, because most things are delicious with Indian spices, but I don't want somebody coming over here and just like
eating people. Yeah.
Like when because I
worry enough about a motherfucker stealing my car.
I kind of like being alive.
Yeah, right.
You know, after I'm dead, I don't care. You can do whatever you want because I don't need the shit anymore. But like, while I'm alive, just, consult with me first. That's all I'm saying. All right. So
they're saying Dennis is tripping him out.
Yeah. He's let's make his head wiggle. Yeah. Yeah. He agrees with everything. Yeah. All right. So where was I? All right. So as I said, there might have been a thing where Chikatilo had some kind of like water on the brain when he was born that might have contributed to the bedwetting, as well as the later impotence that he displayed. That was one of the things, probably the major thing, that led to him becoming a serial killer. So then the Soviet Union enters World War II. Now, Andrei's father, Roman, gets drafted into the Red Army. Now, he wasn't in battle very long. He got wounded in combat, and then he got taken prisoner. He was a prisoner of war. Now, weirdly, because he got taken as a prisoner, like, he got released later on. When he came back home, basically he was vilified because they thought he was a coward because he had allowed the Germans to take him alive. So the name of the family was kind of like dragged through the mud. Another thing that Andrei said later was that he forever resented his father after that, because weirdly, that was one thing that contributed to a lot of Andrei being bullied at school, was that his dad was seen as a traitor or as a coward because he got captured.
That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the way they think. I guess maybe they would have preferred it if he had killed himself
or been killed and died
or
fighting.
been killed and died fighting. Then he would have been a hero. But the fact that he got captured and then later released, that made him a coward somehow.
It's always motherfuckers that aren't fucking in combat making judgment on other dudes who are. Ridiculous. I mean, the Germans captured a lot of Russian guys. A lot of them Russian guys they sent to concentration camps, though. He's lucky his dad survived it.
Yeah.
That's usually what they did.
I'm just saying that was one of the things that, I mean, he got, like, Andrei got bullied for other things, but that was one of the things.
It's easy to get captured in warfare like that.
Well, he got wounded.
Yeah, you can get wounded
battle.
and left behind and then get captured. You can run out of ammunition and get captured. It's a bunch of your chain of command could fucking surrender and fucking all of a sudden you get captured. It's all kinds of shit that could happen to you.
Right. So it's like, it just seems like that's fucked up that, you know, his dad got captured, which you would think, you know, people would be sympathetic, but they were not. They just considered.
Yeah, the Russians captured a whole bunch of Germans.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just happens.
That's
you can get captured.
Shit happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Andrei apparently, you know, when the Germans came through, they burned his hut to the ground, like the hut that his family lived in. I've also seen some sources that said, I'm not sure how true this is, but that maybe a German soldier raped his mom and he witnessed it. You know, not all sources say that, but some of them
sounds like bullshit.
So I don't know. It did happen. Like, again, just like the cannibalism, it did happen. I just don't know if it happened to that particular person or not.
Germans weren't known for rape.
Although, like I said,
Russians were.
I do know of some cases where it did happen.
Yeah,
but
the Russians were doing it systematically to the Germans when they got inside fucking Germany. They were gang raping and fucking killing German women in mass. Now here's the deal, though. It wasn't your frontline Russian soldiers were doing that. They had these second and third echelon Russian soldiers were guys that were released from prison. It was they were the ones that were doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, U.S. Army and fucking U.S. Army would find big piles of dead German women, that all been raped. And that was Russian second and third line troops doing that shit. There was all kinds of shit that happened during those final days of the war. They'd capture a bunch of German guys. Americans would capture a bunch of German guys and say, look at what they did to your women over here. We're going to reissue you a whole ammo and send you back to fight Russians. Go kill some more Russians for a couple days and then come back and we'll take your surrender. A lot of that shit was going on.
Yeah.
Because the American High Command figured that once the war with Germany was over, that we would turn on Russia. The Russians and the Americans planned on turning on each other during that war. You know, it's just that we didn't realize it would turn into a Cold War. They thought it would go right into a hot war.
Yeah.
A bunch of weird shit happened. There's a lot of good programs on it, a lot of good research. Mark Felton is a dude that's big into that shit. He puts a bunch of damn videos up. All the dirty games we were playing with the Germans to fucking kill Russians in the final days of the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had that whole thing where, you know, the whole thing with his dad. Also, Andrei was kind of, he wasn't a bad looking dude. Like I've seen pictures of him when he was younger, like a teenager. You know, pretty attractive, handsome dude. Didn't look any different than any other dude. But he was kind of shy. He was kind of introverted. Like I said, you know, his family was kind of, you know, nothing out of the ordinary, but, you know, his mom had beat him for peeing the bed. And it's like he had this whole thing with his dad and like people picked on him because of that. He was kind of shy. So he got picked on quite a bit. Now, he also, when he got into, like, once he got into puberty and got into his teenage years, he started to discover that he was impotent in the sense that he could still ejaculate, but he could not maintain an erection. And as far as I know, this continued his entire life. So it's like I said, it might have been a physical problem. As far as I know, he didn't
sounds psychological if you ask me.
Well, it might be, but there are some physical, you know, things that might have caused it. And as far as I know, he didn't ever go to get it checked out or anything like that. So it was something that kind of fueled a lot of resentment, later on. And even when he was finally captured in the 90s, when he was at trial, one of the things that was one of the things where he took his pants down and showed everybody his dick and waved it around it in the courtroom and said, look at this useless thing, And so it was one thing that really seemed to, because he didn't feel like a man, I guess, because he could never get it to work.
I think this is all psychological stuff that
it could have been. It could have been,
because it's more likely that having those physical problems, it's more likely that physical problems did not cause these psychological problems. It's more likely that psychological problems fucking caused these physical problems, if you ask me. Because if there was dudes that had some kind of physical problem when it came to fucking impotence and potency, then that means that there'd be serial killers running around everywhere. You know what I mean? It's more likely that he had a bad self-image. You know what I mean?
Well, he definitely
caused
did.
all that.
I mean, because like I said, impotence is not,
it's not that rare.
It's not that rare.
Right.
I'm just saying that, I'm not excusing that that's, that was kind of what he said, made him, but that probably along with other factors that probably pushed him toward that, because I think he felt like,
I think it's problems in his head and it's a vicious cycle.
Well, and it's another thing too, where I feel like he had this kind of thing where he felt like, well, he was a man, so he was owed sex, or he, was entitled to it. And the fact that his dick didn't work, whether it was for physical or psychological reasons, it did work in the sense that he could ejaculate and he did impregnate his wife later on, in a non-traditional way. But the fact that he couldn't maintain an erection long enough to have sex with someone in the quote unquote normal way, I think fucked him up to an extent that he just couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just the impotence that was the problem. It was the fact that he couldn't deal with the impotence. What I'm saying.
I think it was a fucking vicious cycle.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
One thing causing another. It was his mental problems causing it. And then the impotency increased his mental problems and his anxiety. It was like a vicious cycle of it.
Yeah.
And it started probably in childhood, like you're saying, being picked on about his dad and bedwetting, weird shit, stuff like that. So fears of being cannibalized. I mean, there was one serial killer who became a serial killer because his brother got raped and killed by a serial killer.
Yeah.
Him thinking about what happened to his brother caused him to fucking start to fantasize about doing that, which made him a serial killer. So,
well, I was
abuse causes more abusers.
Usually does, yeah.
And that's
I mean, like I said, not always, because I definitely think there has to be a genetic component, because obviously, sadly, a lot of people are abused as children and they turn out okay. They don't turn out to be serial killers, but so there has to be that other.
It depends on how a person reacts.
Yeah, it's all in how you react to
it.
Yeah. And it's weird because I was just thinking about another serial killer earlier who, I can't remember who it was, but it was another one that I think the story was that he saw his sister get raped when she was a kid, and he couldn't do anything to stop it because he was just a kid too. And it was the guy that raped was a grown man. And then he became a serial killer later on. And some people have speculated that might have kind of been a formative experience when he was a kid, because he couldn't prevent it from happening. So he was just going to do it to other people, because some people have this kind of fucked up, that horrible things happen to them. So now they're going to do it to other people, as some kind of weird revenge or some kind of shit.
Yeah. And they almost kind of fetishize it.
That too.
Where they start to kind of immerse themselves into it and become one with it. And instead of being a victim of the abuse, they're trying to become a fucking master and perpetrator of the abuse, turning it around.
Yeah, because they felt powerless.
Right. So now they're going to turn around and make themselves powerful.
And I feel like and particularly in Chikatilo's case, because I think that the fact that he felt powerless, not only because he was impotent, but also because of other things, he got picked on for other things, for being shy, for being introverted, or whatever. So I think that was kind of the only way that he could throw his weight around, was to attack and kill people, mostly young women and children.
It's kind of like kind of reminds me of a story that Fran Drescher, you know, Fran Drescher, the girl, that woman, that actress, when she was young and living up in New York, I think it was New York is where she said she lived. A dude broke into her apartment and raped her. He was a black guy. All right. And from then on out, she only dated black guys. It was like her way of fucking confronting and overcoming the fear of black guys was to date them. And
which that doesn't seem like a terribly unhealthy
That was the way she responded to it.
I could see that.
Well, it'd be like the same way, you know, if you had a guy who, like you said, saw his brother get raped. His way of dealing with that is he becomes the rapist, so he has nothing to fear from it.
Yeah.
All right. So
well, it's just kind of like how kids that are bullied at home often will become bullies at school, and they'll pick on kids that are littler than them because they get picked on by their dad or their mom or whatever, and they can't do anything about that because those are adults and they're children. Yeah. So they will pick on someone younger than them to make themselves feel powerful, so that to kind of like, you know, offload that sense of powerlessness that they feel, you know, that they can't fight back against their parents because they're grown-ups.
Yeah.
So you can understand how that happens. Like I said, it's unfortunate, but you can understand why it happens. You can understand the pathology of it. Yeah. Bee's Nest movie says it's called "Kick the Dog" syndrome. That's
exactly what the fuck? I'm offended as a brother. Yeah, that was a story of Fran Drescher. Yeah, black dude raped her, and all of a sudden, then she fucking started dating nothing but black dude. Converted her, flipped her.
That's fucked up. That's real fucked up. But yeah, so once Chikatilo had discovered his impotence, which was a massive source of shame for him, he didn't have any sexual experience as a teenager at all, other than, now I've seen different sources say either he was 15 years old or 17 years old. I'm not really sure which it is, but apparently this little girl who I believe was about 11, and she had come over to the house to play with his younger sister, and apparently he jumped on her and like tried to, I don't know if he was trying to rape her, but he was definitely like trying to like assault her. So he like jumped on her. It was like kind of like humping her or whatever. And she was struggling, and her struggling against him like made him spontaneously ejaculate. So that's kind of like the only sexual experience he had up to that point. So I kind of feel like when he was a teenager, like he couldn't get it up, if you want to say that, but he learned from a fairly young age that he needed someone to be like fighting against him. It had to be by force or he couldn't do it.
Lawrence is in there clowning about the BBC. BBC monster came and got her, flipped her like a fucking pancake.
That's messed up.
Yeah. World is a weird place. World is a fucking strange place.
It is indeed. It is indeed. So, all right. So another thing that happened that probably did not contribute to his already very low self-esteem was that, so he finished his school in 1953. And I believe his dream, I think I remember reading this, that he wanted to study law. So he actually applied for a scholarship at Moscow State University. Now, he ended up passing the entrance exam, but his grades weren't really good enough to get in. Now, he kind of blamed this on, the bad name that his father had given to the family, and kind of resented his dad for the rest of his dad's life because of that. Even though I suspect that Moscow State University, I mean, they had a lot of applications and they were only going to take like, the top of the top, the cream of the crop or whatever. And I just feel like, well, he didn't quite cut the mustard. So I don't think it was anything particularly personal, but I think he kind of took it personally. So that was kind of another, notch in favor of like, everybody's against me, everybody hates me. Like, he already has like terrible self-esteem, and this was another blow. So it's like, he's just feeling like less and less of a man, like as time goes on, I suppose, which, like I said, not an excuse. I'm just trying to say, this is where the dude is coming from. You know what I'm saying? Like why he ended up the way he ended up. So between 1957 and 1960, he does his compulsory military service. Now in 1963, I guess his younger sister was kind of like worried about him because I don't know if she knew that he was impotent or not, because that seems like a weird thing to talk about with your sister, especially back then. But she was worried that he wasn't really dating or anything like that. So she's like, look, I know this girl, this friend of mine, and I'll set you guys up.
I'm gonna get some more ice with that more.
Okay. So the younger sister sets Andrei up with this young woman. Now, they kind of hit it off. The young woman was, very intelligent, very likable. Now, I've seen some things. I don't know how long they knew each other. I don't know if they dated specifically or if it was just kind of like a setup kind of, hey, here's a woman, have her, because like we're kind of worried about you. It seemed like that kind of situation. I read somewhere that they only knew each other for 2 weeks and then got married. I don't know if that's true or not. But in any case, he did actually end up marrying her. Now, what ended up happening here was that when the wife figured out that he could not maintain an erection, I mean, she still wanted children. This was, this was just what you did back then. This was the early 60s. So you had to have a family life and everything. So she wanted children. So apparently what he would do was that he would, like, not to be super gross, like anyone's worried about that, but he would like jerk off into his hand and then like stick it up in her vagina, like with his fingers. So essentially like a turkey baster method, but without the turkey baster. That's what I heard anyway. So that's kind of like how that was working out. I don't know if she had any sex toys or anything. I would hope so, but I don't know. Like I said, this is the early 60s and it's Soviet. It was the Soviet Union, so I don't know how easy it was to get sex toys. Probably impossible. But yeah, so this actually did work. She did get pregnant 2 times. They had a son and a daughter. The daughter's name was Ludmilla, I think, and the son's name was Yuri. So they did have a couple of kids. Now, after that, so as I said, he seemed like a normal family man at this point. This is the early 60s. This is Soviet Union. No one is really talking about family dynamics. Everyone's putting on a happy face. Everyone's trying to look normal. And so, but there was a lot of shit going on behind the scenes that nobody kind of knew about until later. But it looked like a normal family from the outside, with the wife and the kids and all that. And he had a job and all that. So 1971, he actually ended up finishing a correspondence course in Russian literature and then later got a degree in the same subject from Rostov University. And from then he would go on to become a teacher at various schools. Now, so he's teaching literature, Russian language. Now, another thing, because like I said, his personality type was very shy, very introverted. So according to everything I read, he was not a very effective teacher because his students didn't see him as having any authority. Because I guess he was kind of quiet and he wasn't really, authoritative. He wasn't outgoing. So the students essentially like kind of ran rampant, like over him, like they wouldn't do anything he said. They didn't have any respect for him or anything like that. Now, he worked at a couple of different schools, over the next few years. However, he ended up getting fired in about 1981 because of numerous complaints about him molesting a bunch of the children. Interestingly, and like I said, this is late 60s, early 70s. Molesting kids was still bad, but I feel like they didn't take it as seriously as they take it nowadays, unfortunately.
Sandra's over there says it took me 10 minutes to figure out what the BBC comments are all about.
Oh.
That's right.
She thought we were talking about the British Broadcasting
Corporation. For your foreign duck ass, let me tell you something. BBC means big black cock.
Yeah, it's
right.
Nothing to do with the
British
BBC.
Yeah, big black cock.
That's totally
all right. It's been known to flip a motherfucker.
Even a man.
When were you getting this? Well, maybe up in prison.
Well, the way you said a motherfucker.
Well,
that usually means a dude.
It's just, maybe. And a flip a bitch.
Anything is a dildo if you try hard enough. I love that. That is actually true.
Actually, ought to bring fucking my boy Toby up here. I think I think BBC flipped Toby on fucking several cases.
Well, Probably.
But that dude would scare off a motherfucker in a heartbeat too. I got told stories about Toby.
Yeah.
You know, Toby
Last week.
wrapping around the fucking leg, Toby. That shit's fucking wrapped around.
Wraps around the leg.
Looks like a fucking 40 ouncer with a fucking apple on the end of it, fucking underneath them damn leather
Thomas
pants.
Carlisle says, was I watching the wrong BBC?
Yeah.
You're
watching the wrong BBC.
There's like, well, it's funny because I find porn fascinating because it's all acronyms, man. It's like all the acronyms that you have to like figure, you know, BBC, BBW, so much stuff. No, I was just laughing about Zach saying anything's a dildo if you try hard enough. I mean, within reason, sure.
Zach's gay ass to jump on anything if it's big enough.
Well, I was just while you were out
Mr.
there.
Fire Extinguisher.
Well, yeah. Well, while you were out there, like making a drink, I was talking about. That I'm sorry that you missed this.
Mr.
So now I'm gonna have to repeat it just so I can hear your comments on it.
Okay.
Was that Andrei?
Yeah.
Married this woman that his younger sister had introduced. It seemed like a situation. Like I said, I wasn't there, but it seemed like a situation where the sister was like, you know, please get laid. Yeah. So it was just kind of like, here's a friend of mine. It's like, I guess she doesn't have a boyfriend, so it's like, just please marry her and do something with that. So they got married, and I think that the wife figured out that he couldn't get it up, but still wanted children because, like I said, it was like a family thing. You know, if that's what everybody did. So what I heard, I don't know if this is true. Like I said, I wasn't there. What I heard was that he would just jerk off into his hand, and then stick it up in her vag. Okay. With his hands, like I said, like the turkey baster method, but without the turkey baster. Right. That's what I said.
Artificial insemination.
Artificial insemination. Well, it's I mean, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's a very crude way.
Yeah, just kind of stick. Yeah. In case you really like that one. That's kind of how you do. Just kind of stick it up in there. Just kind of. It's like, here, stand on your head. Just make sure it like stays in there, I guess. But like I said, it did work. They did have 2 kids. They had a son and a daughter.
That's right. Moped's Problems is talking about think about how many dudes Fleece Johnson turned. Fleece Johnson. I know what I am. That's fucking. Oh, dear. Fleece Johnson.
Please don't Google 1 man and 1 jar. Don't worry, I won't. Nah. I've already not Googled.
If you guys, in case you guys didn't know,
because I know what's in there. I'm not watching that.
In case you guys didn't know, Fleece Johnson got released. He got released several years back, and evidently lived a normal life for a couple years and then died. I think he died of fucking cancer or something. But Fleece Johnson, if you guys just fucking Google Fleece Johnson booty warrior on YouTube, you'll see exactly who we're talking about.
You're like his marketing dude. Because you mentioned him on every
No, fucking they actually made cartoons about Booty Warrior. Yeah.
Well, how can you
I don't know what I am
with a name like that?
Booty Warrior. That was the name that was given to him by the by other people because he called himself the Booty Warrior. I'm a warrior.
A warrior.
I'm a warrior. I know what I am. Yeah. Okay. I sees him, and if I likes him.
He goes to war with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, this rather crude method that Andrei used because he couldn't do shit the normal way did work. His wife actually did have kids. So this dude had 2 children. Think about that. I don't know whatever happened to them. So, as I said, so he becomes a teacher, but he only did it for a few years before he ended up getting fired because he got a little too touchy-feely with the students. Usually girls, but sometimes boys as well. He wasn't picky. So there was that whole thing. So he did end up actually getting another job later on. He started working as like a supply clerk in a factory, like, you know, other jobs. He never seemed to have any trouble finding jobs, which is very weird to me, even though I guess it's not the same as it is now, where it's like if you have a record like that, like, hey, you molested kids, and then you can just like walk out and get another job somewhere else and nobody like even questions it. But I guess back then you could do that. So September of 1978, Andrei Chikatilo and his family moved to a place called Shakti. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. This is a coal mining town near Rostov. Now, it was this place where he committed what is thought to be his first murder. And like I said, there were a lot of them. He ended up killing at least 52 people, probably more like 56, and maybe even more than that. So his first victim This happened on December 22nd. This was a 9-year-old girl named Yelena Zakatnova. And what he had done was that I guess he was planning this shit because he had secretly bought a house, like out in the, like not a fancy house or anything, but he's bought kind of like a crab, like shacky kind of house. And it was like kind of out like in a rural area. And I guess he bought it for the specific purpose of, hey, I'm going to take some victims here, because he didn't tell anybody, like he didn't tell his wife or anybody that he had bought it. So he just bought this house for that purpose. So he lures this 9-year-old girl to this house, and he tried to rape her. And of course it didn't work out because
Couldn't get it
of his problem. Yeah. This enraged him. And so he choked her to death and just started stabbing her. And while he was stabbing her, he spontaneously ejaculated. So like I said, he has a thing where I guess the knife is kind of acting as a pseudo phallus in this situation. Like that is how he gets his sexual release, because he can't maintain an erection either, like I said, either for psychological or physical reasons or a combination of the two. But apparently stabbing someone and killing them will bring him to orgasm.
It's psychological. All right. All this problem is psychological, if you ask me. This dude is an outlier. He's at the very extreme fringe of statistical probability. If you ask me, he's got all kinds of fucking inadequacy issues. He feels he's not good enough. He feels his dad wasn't good enough. He's got all this shit going on with him. And when it comes to fucking sex, it's too challenging for him. His fear of failure overcomes him, so he can't get it up.
Yeah.
It's like that fucking syndrome, that watch the dick syndrome. You're trying to fucking piss. And they were looking at your dick next to you. And the urinal says, man, dude, why are you looking at it? And you get stage fright. That's what it is. Then he lashes out, okay, because he can't do it. And then the fear of future failure fucking feeds into that shit.
Well, yeah, because then you start thinking
now
about
he's in a pattern, right?
Like next time it's going to do that too, and then you're thinking about it, and then it makes you anxious.
Right. So then he starts going down this fucking crazy ass path where he's abducting little girls and killing them, and he's so fucked up he can't even have sex with them after they're dead. Yeah. A lot of these dudes that we talked about earlier on other shows, they just don't want to be watched because it's too much performance anxiety.
Performance anxiety. It's pressure.
So they kill the woman so they can have sex with them, so because she can't watch him.
Yeah,
that's all it is. It's
how many problems would be solved if they would just buy a sex doll?
It was before they had that shit.
They have really good ones now. Maybe that's why you don't see serial killers.
These dudes are so fucked up, though. You know what I mean? That they probably would have performance anxiety for the sex doll.
Yeah, probably. She's still looking at.
Yeah, she might be looking.
Turn her over.
It's going to be a kind of situation where they're going to have a full AI, artificial intelligence, fucking sex robot, and that's going to be too much pressure for them. Dudes are losers. Fucking losers. Yeah.
Sandra was asking, and I was actually wondering about this too when I was reading about this dude. She's like, if he can ejaculate, then he isn't impotent. Now, see, does impotence mean that, I mean, you just can't maintain an erection? That was his thing. He could still ejaculate.
He just couldn't.
And he did.
Couldn't get it up.
He just couldn't maintain an erection long enough to have sex in a normal way. So, like I said, I don't know if that was a physical issue or if it was a, so he couldn't get a hard on, and he couldn't keep one, but he could ejaculate to an extent that he did actually father 2 children with his wife, even though he had to insert the ejaculate in alternative ways.
Somebody just went and watched Bee's Nest went and watched the Fleece Johnson video. Yeah, Fleece, because there's somebody gonna have to give up a booty. They need booty like water, like a man needs water.
I'm not sure if
it's like true. Water.
I'm not sure if that's true.
As far as fucking Fleece Johnson was concerned, it was like water.
Okay.
You need booty like a man needs water.
Fair enough.
Okay. Lawrence is laughing.
Send more vodka. Yeah, right. I might need some more in a minute. But yeah, so all right. So he kills this poor little girl, this little 9-year-old girl. And he dumps her body in the river.
Fleece Johnson is the booty warrior. They're saying, who's Fleece Johnson? Fleece Johnson is the booty warrior. He's a fucking convict who liked booty. And if you can fucking Google Fleece Johnson, search for Fleece Johnson right here on YouTube, and there'll be a little. I think it's NBC. I think did a little thing on Fleece Johnson in prison, and he was this fucking dude in prison that liked booty. And he liked booty. You got to have booty, like a man needs water, and somebody's gonna have to give up a booty somewhere. You know what I mean? And that's prison. Somebody's gonna have to give up booty.
I don't know who it's gonna be.
Who's gonna give it up? Somebody's gonna have to give it up. And he was a warrior about it. He knew what he was.
That was gross. It's just looked up Fleece Johnson. Now it's time to delete my history.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. Well, like I said, it's like I all day, all I do is like read about fucking terrible murders and like all these horrible like fucking shit. So I have to like delete it. It's like people, if anything ever happened to me and somebody checked my fucking history, I'd be in such big trouble. Like everyone would think I was a fucking serial killer. Nick, no, seriously, I just write about serial killers. I'm not actually a serial killer.
Fleece Johnson was what they call in prison. In prison, they call him a pump. He was a prison pump. He liked booty. And somebody was going to have to give up booty. Somebody. He might flip-flop. Where he gives up booty and you give up booty, you're flipping and flopping.
Well, that's only fair.
It might be flip-flopping where he flips it out of his pants and flops it down into your fucking mouth.
Oh, that
might be another kind of flip-flopping.
Have you ever said that on the show? Because
I've said it before.
That's something that you used to say.
Yeah. I'll flip it out of my pants.
And I don't know if you actually got it on the show for posterity.
No. Flip this shit out of my pants and flop it down into your fucking mouth. That's the only kind of flip-flopping you're going to get.
Fourth Jordan says, here at the BBC, we do not endorse this.
Every time I laugh at British people, I laugh at fucking when the British talk about BBC, because to an American, that means a totally different fucking thing.
I mean, intellectually, I know what the BBC, because I read BBC News.
Oh, the BBC.
But it's like, it is always kind of like always in the back of your head, like, Big Black Cock News.
Big Black Cock.
I would read the Big Black Cock News.
Yeah, they got BBC, the BWC. They got fucking all these weird acronyms like fucking WMAF. You know what that one is, right? White male, Asian female. They have all the different fucking acronyms to find anything that you want in the world of porn.
The world of
porn. Yeah.
Porn world.
If you guys want to see a good movie on porn, go see Mope.
That was one of my favorite. That was one of the best movies that we watched in the last few months. I enjoyed that very much.
It's a true story.
It's kind of a depressing story, I mean, it's a true story. It's terrible what happened, but it was still like a pretty entertaining movie. Like I said, if you like Boogie Nights,
it's like
they probably like
porn's version of The Art of Self-Defense.
Yeah,
a movie kind of like that.
All right, so even though, from our point of view, in hindsight, it seemed very obvious that Chikatilo had killed this little girl because they found some of her blood in the snow, like not far from his house, like right next to his house.
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Fleece Johnson claimed to be a shot caller. I'm not sure he was a shot caller. I think he was just a punk. He was a punk, and the fucking camera crew came in and he told an interesting fucking wild ass fucking tale, and they did a whole little bit on Fleece Johnson. But as far as the prison scene goes, dudes like Fleece Johnson, there's lots of those. I don't think he was a shot caller. He was just pretending to be. Other people probably laughed at that shit. He's just a punk. Go ahead.
Nile says, you've watched enough porn when you don't read BBC as the British Broadcasting.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, I see.
We know porn people.
I see it as both things simultaneously. So it's like I kind of chuckle, but it's like
Florida's got a huge porn
I'm mature,
scene.
so
Florida's got a huge porn.
They do shoot a lot of porn down here, because it's like a cheaper California.
California's played out. This is the new territory.
Well, and like I said, it's too expensive. So so you can rent like nice fancy houses to shoot porn in for like cheaper here than you can in California. Just saying.
Yeah.
If you want to get into porn,
and you look and you see people in them.
I still keep waiting for that. Yeah. Well, I think that's happened once or twice, but it's like
we know who they are.
I still keep waiting for that to happen. Like one of these days, I'll see them and be like, "Hey, what's their name?"
And then you find out some of these people are just straight up hookers.
Yeah, well,
that's some weird shit too.
Okay, I've been there. Yeah. Not me, I'm not a hooker, but I'm just saying. It's like
they're like, damn. Okay.
Well, all right. Well, I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
They need money.
Yeah, I get that. Is that rain?
I think it is, yeah.
Holy shit, where'd that come from?
Okay. Go ahead and finish. I'm going to go back a second. Hold on.
Why don't you give me another drink while you're going?
Another drink? Here, I'll make you a drink.
Well, while you're leaving.
Make you a drink. Back a second.
All right. So, as I said, from our point of view, there's blood outside his house, which obviously looks suspicious. A witness had seen somebody that looked very much like Andrei Chikatilo, because it was, talking to the little girl, like not too long before she disappeared, because she was last seen at a bus stop. That was one thing that he did a lot, like later on, was he would pick people up from bus stops, train stations, various things like that. Now, what ended up happening with this, though, and this is pretty shitty, a 25-year-old kid named Alexander Kravchenko actually got picked up for the crime. Now, when he was a teenager, he actually had served a jail sentence for rape and murder of another teenage girl. So, he wasn't a total innocent in this situation. However, he had not committed this particular crime, but he did get picked up as a suspect in the crime. And evidently, the authorities grilled him so severely. I don't know if they beat him. I don't know, something like that. But he did end up confessing to it. Now, he ended up getting tried for the murder in 1979. But when he was on the stand, like at the trial, he retracted his confession and said that they had essentially beaten it out of him. However, he was still convicted. He got sentenced to 15 years, which at the time was the maximum time that you could serve in prison at that point in the Soviet Union. However, the victim's relatives put pressure on the authorities, and he got retried and sentenced to death, and was actually executed for the murder in 1983. Even though Chikatilo had done it. So like I said, this guy had actually raped and murdered, presumably had raped and murdered a girl when he was a teenager, but he was actually accused and executed for this particular murder, even though Chikatilo had done it. So after this, as I said, this was his first known murder. So I guess he figured out at this stage that he was only going to be able to obtain sexual release by stabbing and killing people. So it was a little while before he did his next one, though, because I think the act of doing the first one and, him leaving so much evidence was kind of like scared him a little bit. So he was kind of able to fend it off for a little while. So the next one didn't actually take place until September of 1981. Now, this was a 17-year-old girl. She was a student. Her name was Larisa Chachenko. And he, again, tried to rape her and was unsuccessful. Thank you very much. And again, the fact that he could not maintain an erection, he started getting really angry about it and basically beat and strangled her to death. He didn't have a knife with him at this stage, so maybe he hadn't actually planned to do anything. But he improvised, as fucked up as that is to say. So he actually ended up, because one thing that Andrei Chikatilo did a lot was he would mutilate the bodies a lot, like post-mortem. He would cut off nipples, he would cut off genitals, he would gouge their eyes out, he would do things like that. Sometimes he would cut off little parts of the body and like chew on them or eat them.
Yeah,
raw.
I remember hearing that, yeah.
Yeah, so he would do shit like that. So at this stage, he didn't have a knife with him. So this particular victim, he just ended up cutting her up with like a stick that he found and actually bit her all over the place, like bit pieces of her off.
Leaving fucking teeth marks behind, I'm sure.
Yeah, although I guess it didn't matter because they didn't catch him for like a really long time.
How old was he at this time?
Now, this was in 81, so he was probably, I don't think he actually started killing people until he was in his 40s.
Okay, so he was older.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when they finally did bring in a psychologist on this case, like to profile, one of the first things that the profiler said is this is an older man from 45 to 50. So he was right about that.
Yeah.
It's just interesting because, like I said, most serial killers start doing fucked up shit when they're teenagers, usually, or in their early 20s. But this guy did not start until later. So I do feel like he tried to have a normal life, and I guess it wasn't working out for him. And once he actually did kill somebody, it just kind of opened up the floodgates. It kind of seemed like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like he held off on it for a long time.
He exploded eventually.
Yeah, it did actually seem like that. Because as I said, he ended up killing, like in 12 years, he ended up killing at least 52 people, probably, or 52 to 56 people. So, all right. So between July and December of 1982, he killed 6 more people. These were generally children between the ages of 9 and 19 years old. What he would do, his kind of MO was that he would approach, not usually, I mean, sometimes they were prostitutes, but usually they were kids or teenagers that were runaways or, you know, homeless kids or people who, you know, had homes, but kind of rode the trains like a lot, just like for entertainment purposes. So he would pick them up at trains. Yeah, with like nothing else to do. So he would approach, that was kind of his MO, was he would approach kids in like train stations and stuff, and he would offer them, you know, money or food or candy or something like that. And sometimes they would go with him, and then he would like take them out to the woods, try to rape them. And, you know, obviously it wouldn't work. And then he would kill them. So he would usually, like I said, he would stab them usually, and often would mutilate the victims. Now, one thing that he did, and this was kind of like a signature on a lot of the bodies, and it was one of the things that kind of helped the Soviet authorities finally come to terms with the fact that they had a serial killer because of this particular thing, was he would gouge their eyes out, or he would cut their eyes. They thought that it was because there was a very common superstition in that part of the world at that time that a murder victim, and it's not just Russia, but I think in other parts of the world has this. It's just like an Eastern European thing too, that a murder victim, like it'll, like their eyes will kind of like essentially take a picture of the last thing that they saw.
You can look in there and you'll see
them. Yeah. Like it'll, like the reflection. So that's like a very common superstition in that part of the world. And there has been speculation that that might have been why he gouged the eyes out, was because he was afraid that the eyes would have like a picture of him. I don't know if that's true, but that's kind of one of the things that they mention.
I think he's just trying to erase them.
Or that they're not looking at him, like I said. Because like I said, this is a killer that's very concerned about
being watched.
About being watched and about like not living up to people's expectations, because he feels like a failure in pretty much every aspect of his life. I mean, everything that he's done has pretty much been a failure, at least in his eyes. So I do feel like maybe that's more what he was doing. I don't know if he actually believed that he would get caught, because the eyeballs would like record an image of him.
Yeah.
But he just didn't want people looking at him, maybe.
That's what I think it is.
I think that's probably more likely. I mean, you know. So, you know, as I said, it's a lot of his victims, like the adult victims were all women. The child victims could be either girls or boys. He was kind of opportunistic in that way. I mean, I don't think he would attack like a full-grown man. Obviously, he never did that. But he would go after vulnerable people. Like I said, young women, prostitutes, runaways. But if it was a kid, he didn't really care if it was a boy or a girl. It was just whoever was there, whoever was alone, whoever looked vulnerable at the time. I don't know if he attempted to rape any of the boys. That has never been.
I would think so.
He might have, but it's like I don't really.
He was lusting on him, because a serial killer normally is killing what they're attracted to.
Yeah,
their sexual quarry, basically, from their point of view. So he's a bisexual. He's going after both of them.
Yeah, although, like I said,
he's not actually having sex because he can't.
Because he can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he never went after any grown men, but I think that was probably because...
No, he liked boys and girls.
Well, I think he didn't go after grown men because he thought they would fight back.
Kick his ass. I mean, he's not a big dude.
He's going after vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't short, but he was thin. Like he wasn't like a real like muscular, And, he was more like an academic, like a shy type of dude. So, I think he was just going after
people. Handle.
Yeah, he was going after people that were like smaller. So at this stage, there was like a long, as far as I know, it was a long period where he didn't kill anyone. So he didn't end up killing anyone again until June of 1983. But between June and September of 1983, he killed 5 more victims. Now, at this stage, like I said, up to this point, it's not like the authorities weren't investigating these murders, because they were. But it took them this long, because he had started in 1978, 1979. It took them this long to finally acknowledge that this is the same killer. Because, as I said, because of the eye gouging, because of the particular mutilations that they found on a lot of the bodies, they finally came to it like, look, this is a serial killer. We need to do something about this. Because for a long time, they kind of denied it. They were investigating the murders, but investigating them separately. Because they didn't really want to tell anyone that they thought this was one dude that was just running around loose. So they bring in a dude on September 6th, 1983. The public prosecutor of the USSR, he formally links together 6 murders under the umbrella of look, this is the same person. We have a serial killer. We need to do something about it. So at this point, they finally do put together a task force. They get a guy from Moscow who gets sent there to kind of see what he could do to help out and kind of lead the investigation. Then they bring in a forensic analyst, Viktor Burakov, who I believe was the character that Stephen Ray was playing in Citizen X, which I was just watching before we started this. Now, what they did at the beginning, which I don't know, like I said, in hindsight, this seems dumb, but I can see where they're coming from the point of view of, before the dude was caught, they didn't know who this dude was. So what they decided to do at the beginning was that, well, this dude is obviously a lunatic. He's a sexual sadist. So they decided to start focusing on people who were known pedophiles, which, like I said, not dumb, because a lot of the victims were children. Known sex offenders. They were going after gay people because, yay, that's just kind of what you did back then, I guess, because
back then that was all clumped
they
into
saw
the same
gay
thing.
people as sexual deviants, sure.
Yeah.
So they put them in the same bag as pedophiles. So anybody that was mentally challenged, let's say, that was another one they were putting. Like I said, not completely out of left field. You can see, I mean, going after,
they're just trying to cover all bases.
Yeah, going after known sex offenders, things like that. I mean, that's actually a pretty smart thing to do, and that's the same thing that we would do nowadays. Because people that have done that kind of shit in the past, you got to look at them if they're doing the same kind of shit in the future. So they were kind of focusing on that. Now, problem is that I feel like they were under an enormous amount of pressure to solve these crimes. They didn't really want it leaking out to the public, like I said, too much, because, they didn't want anyone to know that, the serial killer, we can't fix it. We can't do anything about it. They didn't want it getting out to the media. They didn't want to get it to the public. They especially didn't want it getting out to the West to make it look like they didn't know what they were doing or that they were behind in forensic technology or anything. So they, what they ended up doing, unfortunately, was bringing in a bunch of, dudes that have been convicted of sex crimes in the past. They brought in a bunch of gay men. They brought in a bunch of other people. And essentially, it seems like they kind of probably physically coerced them into confessions.
Yeah, well, that's the Soviet way.
Yeah,
you get in there, you fucking roll.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, you're dealing with. You're not dealing with the fucking. You're dealing with the police. You're not dealing with the KGB at this point, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay,
I don't think the KGB got
No.
involved at this stage.
Right. So, the Russian way is to rough a motherfucker up. That's what they did back then.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody is state people at this point. In a communist system, you belong to the state. They want information from you. They do what they want to you.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Well, and that's essentially what ended up. So they got a shit ton of confessions from some of these people because, allegedly that they beat it out of them.
You can beat a confession out of anybody, whether or not
of course you can.
Whether or not that confession is accurate. No,
like I said, well, obviously, the more you beat somebody, the less accurate that shit's going to be.
They're just going to tell you.
Because they're just going to tell you whatever.
Right.
It was the same thing with the fucking Salem witch trials and all that kind of shit. It's like, you torture people long enough, they'll tell you anything you want just to make it stop. So it's like, that's never going to be
They know that, though, okay? A lot of people will say, well, that's dumb to do that. They'll tell you, they knew that. They knew that back then.
Well, they just wanted it
what they
to
would
be,
do is
to
they would
away.
go, no, what they would do is they beat somebody and then they'd give up the information and they go try to verify that information. If it didn't check out, then they knew that person was innocent. That's what the thinking was. Just because you beat that person, just because you beat the confession out of them doesn't mean it was useless. They beat the confession out of someone, then they verify it. If it doesn't check out, they go, he didn't do it. That was the way they saw it.
We beat the shit out of him, and
they didn't care,
and he didn't give it up.
They didn't care. You're looking at it from a Western perspective.
Yeah. I can see where
their perspective was the ends justify the means. Beat the shit out of that dude, then check.
Yeah, then check.
And
it's like, oh, okay, it's innocent.
He didn't
you
do
can
it.
Go.
Exactly. Not thank you. That's how they do it.
Yeah, that's fucked up. I'm just saying, I understand that.
It's fucked up, but in Soviet Russia, you know what I mean? That's the fucking way that shit happened. You know what I mean? And it works. Kind of.
Sort of.
Kind of works, yeah.
Although I will admit that at least 4 people in this case, 3 gay men and 1 prior sex offender, ended up committing suicide afterward.
Yeah.
Because of these tactics.
And guess what? The Russian cops didn't give a shit. They're like,
no, of course not.
That's just the elimination of excess population. We didn't need them anyway. Their deaths saved us money.
Yeah, I'm sure that's how they.
Just because those are people doesn't mean we can't kill them. This is
it's just a person.
The West, this is just a person. Do not project your.
We have lots of those.
Yeah, we have lots of people, and they all cost us money to feed. So do not project your Western values on others. That's not the way it is. It's the way it is in the military. It's like that. Not as bad, U.S. military, but it's that same fucking methodical thing.
So at least 4 people, maybe more, I don't know, but at least 4 people did commit suicide because they had beaten them into confessions, and obviously they didn't do it because the crimes continued when all of these people were in custody. So obviously it wasn't them. So in October of 1983, Chikatilo killed again. This was a 19-year-old girl, a prostitute. And a couple months later, in December, he killed a 14-year-old boy, a little school student named Sergei Markov. And he didn't really wait too long before the next ones. January and February of 1984, he killed two women in Aviators Park. So there was that. And then a month later, March 24th, he actually lured a 10-year-old boy named Dmitry Patashnikov away from a kiosk in town. And in this case, he was actually, I will say this about Chikatilo, he didn't seem particularly concerned about getting caught because he would pick up kids in like broad daylight, and like people would see him like walking down the street with this kid.
Well, a lot of times that's kind of the way to do it. You hide in plain sight. It's just like,
I mean, it worked because he didn't get caught for 12 years.
Of course it works. It's kind of like you can take your bicycle and fucking put it up beside you on your porch in broad daylight. You know what I mean? And then fucking leave it there. Nobody will steal this. It's in broad daylight. You come out and your fucking bicycle's gone. And you go, that fucking idiot stole my bicycle on my front porch in broad daylight. He's going to get caught. Well, where the fuck is he?
Yeah,
you didn't catch him. You know,
I will tell you
that type of shit.
I had a bicycle.
Yeah.
My bicycle was stolen, not from in front of my house, but I had ridden it to the mall and parked it outside the mall. It was locked and everything.
Yeah.
And somebody stole it while I was in the mall.
Ridiculous.
In broad daylight.
And
there were security guards driving all around.
Yeah.
Nobody saw a thing.
So you go,
I had to walk all the way home.
You're like that idiot stole my bicycle in fucking broad daylight.
It worked.
Yeah, well, where is he?
He still got my bike. Whoever
he's got your fucking bike, didn't he? Yeah.
Whoever's got my bike, I'm still mad about that.
Things don't work out the way
that was many years ago, and I'm still mad.
Things don't work out the way you think they do. Was he stupid or was he a genius?
Well, like I said, in some ways, I mean, a lot of people see you. That's not good, but in a lot of ways too, like if you're committing crimes, I'm not like, saying this is like pro tips for anybody committing crimes or anything, but sometimes if you're skulking around at night and like doing suspicious shit, like obviously I'm going to be a lot more suspicious if somebody that's like skulking around in my backyard at 2 a.m. than I am just somebody walking across my backyard at like noon, right?
Yeah.
That's less suspicious. It's daytime.
Someone's trying to call bullshit on me about how well torture worked at Abu Ghraib prison. Abu Ghraib prison torture worked real well. It worked real well. Fucking you tortured people. They didn't know anything. You didn't get anything. Just because you tortured them doesn't mean anything. First of all, here's another thing. I got to have Pops on here. Terrence Pops. One day we'll have Terrence Pops on as a fucking guest. He's a fucking 30-year veteran, Special Forces and Ranger. He was in charge of Abu Ghraib prison after those fucking National Guard guys got kicked out. All right. Abu Ghraib was fucking haunted as fuck, and he'll tell you that. We're going to do a fucking we'll have him on as a paranormal guest. He'll tell you the fucking
I've heard that shit. So, like I said, if any place is haunted, it's probably there.
Abu Ghraib fucking had bones everywhere. They had whole sections of that prison that they just walled off because people were terrified to go into it. There were fucking blood stains and fucking teeth. What was going on at Abu Ghraib made fucking what the Nazis did look like fucking Sunday school. That's how bad Abu Ghraib was. All right. The Iraqi people were fucking tough. You could torture an Iraqi and fucking they didn't really mind. They were used to it for fucking generations. When those assholes in there, them damn National Guard in there fucking with those prisoners that they got pictures of that embarrassed the United States, they weren't even asking those people questions. They were just hazing them. All right. Torture does work. It works very well. It's just that in the media, they portrayed it as not working. It works. It works. It works real well. A person who doesn't know anything will make shit up. All right. A person who does know something will usually tell. Usually. Or they fucking tell stories that eventually, through a process of elimination, you'll be able to find out what the truth is. The reason why you don't want to do it is that you have to fucking torture a lot of innocent people to get down to the bottom of it. And in Western thinking, that's wrong. I kind of think it's wrong, depending on what the stakes are. But in other civilizations and other value systems, they don't care whether or not they torture an innocent person. They just don't. They see people as, like I said, excess population. It depends on. In China, it fucking happens all the time. There's concentration camps happening in China right now that are about like what was going on in fucking Nazi Germany. And you have our tech heads dealing with these people. And people know about it. Our ruling class knows all about it. They're fucking got Uyghurs in concentration camps, and they're fucking harvesting organs off these people and selling them to rich Middle Easterners because it's halal. There's all kinds of shit happening you don't know about yet. But the history books will tell you later. Go ahead, Jenny. I'm just trying to keep these people straight. You got people that live in fantasy world. There's shit going on right now that fucking would make the Nazis blush. You just don't know about it yet.
I don't think anything would make the Nazis blush.
I don't think the Nazis were into fucking eliminating fucking people that they thought were their enemies. They just didn't give a shit. That's a pretty normal fucking response. You're an enemy, I'm gonna kill you. The whole idea of fucking keeping people around to harvest organs off of them and weird fucking making clones and shit. There's a bunch of weird shit happening.
I mean, the
right
thing
now.
about it, though, it's like once you've dehumanized someone to the sense that you don't see them as a fellow human anymore, you can do whatever to them, and it doesn't matter to you anymore. You know what I'm saying?
I believe that there's some weird shit that we never thought of that's having to do with fucking cloning and fucking children and fucking all kinds of weird shit. But go ahead. I gotta go. Hold on. I gotta take a break. Hold on. There a second. You're lucky, Jenny. You got a bladder the size of a basketball. Mine's only like the size of a softball.
I know. It's like he has to go. I laugh at him like like I kind of have to pee too, but it's like every time we go out to the club, it's like I laugh at him because And so it seems like, to me, from my point of view, it seems like every 15 minutes, I gotta go take a leak. I was like, what is the matter with you? You're drinking the same amount as me. But yeah, so this guy, he takes this kid who's 10 years old. He takes him from like a stamp kiosk or something, like in the middle of town. It's in the middle of the day. A bunch of people saw him though. So he takes the kid, but after the kid turned up dead, like 3 days later, like a bunch of witnesses were able to come forward and give like a description of him to the authorities. They also found, when they found the kid's body, they also found a footprint, and they also found saliva samples and semen on the victim's clothing. Now, this was still 1984, so they didn't have, DNA shit or anything like that. They didn't have anything like we have nowadays, but they were still able to blood type, which I'll get into that in a bit, but that was another thing that maybe contributed to him like running around loose for longer than maybe he should have because of the blood typing issue. So we'll get into that. So May 25th, he kills another woman named Tatiana Petrosyan and her 11-year-old daughter Svetlana. He kills both of them in the woods. Like, I'm assuming he lured them like he usually did and ended up killing him. Now, in this case, normally Chikatilo would just pick up random people that he didn't know. Like I said, he would go to a train station and he would see like a kid sitting by themselves and be like, hey, I've got this neat movie, or I've got these neat stamps, or I've got some candy or something like that. And he would lure them away. But in this case, this victim and her daughter, he had actually known them for like a really long time. Which I think, as far as I can remember, this was the only instance where that happened, where he actually killed somebody that he'd actually kind of been friends with for a long time, which is kind of fucked up.
Do you take a break at all?
Yeah, probably I do.
Okay,
so
I'll let you take a break because.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You gonna let me go, and then you're gonna.
I'll entertain him.
You're gonna entertain.
I'm gonna entertain these motherfuckers.
Only for a couple of things.
Only takes you a couple seconds. So what you guys up to? Hold on, let me see what's going on. Tom's an old man. Hey, I said Tom's an old man. Ain't that something? Okay. Let me see. See what you got. Didn't they torture him with country music? Okay, well, look. A lot of the shit that they did to people that was kind of like psychological pressure, you really couldn't call that torture. Real torture is when you do like physical damage to people. There are other things that you can do, you know what I mean? Fucking putting them in real cold rooms, real hot rooms, fucking break them down with fucking music and psychological stuff. I'd call that more like pressure than it would be torture. They have people that can resist physical torture. The ultimate torture is when you're not torturing a person, you're torturing, say, like a person's child. I mean, if you have a person who's resistant to it, you have to get a hold of one of their family members and you start torturing the family member to get them to talk. That's usually effective. You can go back and this is something the United States didn't do, but Saddam did it. Saddam, Uday, and Qusay, they did all that shit to people. It's easy to put up with damage that's being done to you. It's a lot harder to put up with damage that's being done to, say, like your daughter, and she's only like 5 or 6, you know. So they talk, or your wife, you know, they rape a dude's wife and he's sitting there watching it, you know. So you can get somebody to talk. You might have to torture somebody else, but Saddam and his regime were real good at it. They knew exactly what they were doing.
You let me get in?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have any room to like back this chair up.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead.
All right. There we go. All right. Where was I? Okay. So like I said, this mother and daughter that he killed were actually people that he had known for quite a long time, which, as I said, this was probably the only time that he had done this, because normally he just targeted strangers. July 19th, he had already killed 3 other women between the ages of 19 and 22 and a 13-year-old boy. So as I said, even though at the beginning of his rampage, if you want to call it that, there was kind of like large gaps in between his killings, just like we see in a lot of serial killer cases. It seems like as the years go on, it's getting more and more numerous, like the number of victims, like he just can't contain it anymore. And I guess the fact that he wasn't getting caught was kind of an impetus to doing more shit, like seeing what he could get away with. Now, in 1984, in the summer, he actually got fired from his job as a supply clerk for stealing. He stole some shit from the company and he got fired. Now, he what ended up happening? Oh, thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Let's hear your hoorah, he said.
There is no hoorah. Hoorah says that's some shit from fucking from Hollywood. That's like what ramps do. It's not hoorah. It's hoo, hoo, hoo. It's not hoorah.
That
hoo.
Sounds like Rastan getting butt worked.
Hoo.
That's the same noise that.
It's the command of execution. You got the preparatory command of execution. Hoo. That's what it is.
That also kind of sounds like the noise I make before I'm going to barf.
Yeah. Yeah. No, a grunt goes hoo, hoo.
Dude, they're so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Making little pig noises all the time. So apparently this company that he had worked for, I guess he had stolen some shit earlier, and the accusation had been made like several months before, like back in the winter. But I guess like the management had asked Andrei to quit, and he wouldn't quit, like he was being a problem about it. So he said that he didn't do anything. And so I guess there was like a big thing and they ended up having to fire him. Like they asked him to resign and he wouldn't, and he like made a big stink about it. So they did actually end up having to fire him. However, he ended up finding another job as a supply clerk in another company not too long afterward. It was only like August 1st. So it was only like a little while that he, found a new job. Now, pretty much the day after he started the new job, he killed another person. 16-year-old girl named Natalia Golosovkaya. Holy sorry, Russians. I'm really sorry.
Golosovkaya.
Yeah, Golosovkaya. Yeah. So this was in Aviators Park where he had murdered a couple of other victims as well previously. And less than a week later, he killed another girl, a 17-year-old, on the banks of the Don River. And then after that, he had to go on a business trip. So he ended up going to this city called Tashkent, which he flew to. And while he was on that business trip, he ended up killing a couple of people as well. So he comes back to Rostov August 15th. He had killed another young woman and a 12-year-old girl. 2 weeks after that, he had also killed another 11-year-old boy who was strangled, castrated, and had his eyes gouged out, like many of his victims did. He also killed a young girl who was a librarian. Her name was Irina Lukinskaya, and she was killed on September 6th. Now, at this point, what they started doing was that, so they kind of figured out, the authorities kind of figured out that he was targeting people that were at train stations. Like I said, like runaways or, transients or kids that like rode the trains or whatever. So they started staking out some of the train stations, like some of them in uniform, like the bigger ones, they would stake out in uniform, like, so they were watching the dudes, but the smaller ones, they would put undercover agents there because what they were hoping would happen was that he would see that there was a lot of uniformed officers at the bigger train stations. So he would go to the smaller ones to target them, and then the undercover agents would see him. So that's kind of like what their thinking was. So he gets observed September 13th, 1984, which was about a week after the 15th killing that he had done. He actually got seen by an undercover detective at a train station, or a bus station rather, and he was trying to lure a woman away from the bus station. So the undercover agent saw him and took him into custody. So he gets arrested. Now, when they looked through his shit, like he had a briefcase or a bag or something like that with him, they opened the thing and there's a knife in there and there's rope in there, which, a little suspicious. And when they looked into his background, they also found that he had been investigated for stealing from his former employer. So again, that was very suspicious. So because of the theft charges, they're like, okay, well, we can hold him for, whatever the length period. I believe it was 10 days at that time, where you could hold them like on a particular charge before you had to let them go. So you could like look for evidence for other crimes. So they also found out that his physical description also matched the description of the dude who had been seen with, I believe it was 10-year-old Dmitry Tashnikov back in March, who had been found dead. However, because this was only circumstantial, this was not enough to hold him indefinitely. So at this stage, they were like, well, all we can charge him with is the theft from the employer. So they did actually try him for that at this stage. And he was found guilty of the theft. So he gets sentenced to a year in prison at this point, but he is let out after 3 months on December 12th, 1984. Now, at this stage, a little bit later than this, October 8th, 1984, the guy who was the head of the Russian public prosecutor's office, he formally, and like I said, they had been operating under the assumption that most of these murders were committed by the same person, but they, at this stage, formally came forward and said, okay, 23 of these murders are linked to the same person, and they formally dropped all the charges against the previous people that they had kept in custody, a lot of whom were mentally handicapped or just people that they had brought in for various reasons because they were gay or because they, had done things in the past or whatever. So they actually did, drop all the charges against those people and said, look, there's still somebody out there. He has committed these 23 murders, that all have the same signature. So we're looking for this one particular person. Now, after Irina Lukinskaya was killed on September 6th, they didn't really find any more bodies with this particular signature, like I said, because there were usually particular types of mutilations, eyes gouged out, usually like nipples cut off, things of that nature. So they didn't find anything like that for a long time. So for a while, they thought, well, maybe this guy died or maybe he moved or something like that. So the police in Rostov actually ended up sending bulletins to other police agencies in other parts of the Soviet Union saying, hey, be on the lookout for this particular murder. Do you guys have any murders that meet these criteria? Because we think this might be the same person and it's a serial killer. So they were looking for any feedback. However, they didn't really get any feedback from any of the other, any of the other towns or any of the other cities that they contacted. So that was so they assumed at this point, because it had been so long since the last one, that, maybe the dude had died or maybe he was in prison for something else, which was actually true because he was in jail for theft, even though he was only in there for 3 months. Now he gets a job. So he gets out of jail for the theft charge. Like I said, he was only in there for a few months. He goes to like another nearby town and he kind of like kept on the DL for a little while. The next murder he committed didn't happen until the end of July 1985. Now, this woman, it was a young woman. He killed her near an airport in Moscow, or an airport near Moscow. And then a month later, he killed another woman in Shakhty. And both of these cases were immediately linked to the same person. So as I said, at this point, even though they were reluctant to say this was a serial killer from the beginning, at this stage, every time a new crime is happening, they are adding it to the database, and they're assuming that this is the same person. Now, in November of 1985, they get this kind of new guy, and he's like a special prosecutor type person, and he's going to supervise the investigation. His name is Ilse Kostoyev. And when he comes in, he kind of like is like, all right, we need to, reinvestigate all the crimes, like look for shit that we've missed, all this other kind of shit. And then they start, kind of going through known sex offenders again, and they're like re-interviewing them and whatnot. And then they start again patrolling all the train stations, bus stations, all that kind of stuff around Rostov, and installing undercover agents again, like looking for this person who's, attacking victims around this area. And it is at this stage that finally, they get around to bringing a psychiatrist into the case to profile the killer, Which, like I said, now I don't know how true this is, but the movie Citizen X kind of went into how the dude that was like the forensic investigator, he wanted to bring a profiler in from the FBI almost immediately. Like he's like, we need a profile of this guy, and the FBI is way ahead of us. And of course, like the overarching authorities didn't want to do that because they said we can't ask for help from the West. That would look bad. But at this point, finally, they're like, okay, maybe we should bring a psychiatrist in on this and profile who it is that we're looking for. So they finally bring in this guy. Now he writes this 65-page report, and he was pretty accurate because he did say that the guy they were looking for was older. He said he's between 45 and 50 years old. He said he's probably of average intelligence. He's probably married or had previously been married, which was true. They're like, he's a sadist who can only achieve sexual arousal by seeing his victims suffer. Also true. So he also said that because most of the killings had occurred on weekdays near hubs of mass transportation, bus stations, train stations, and whatnot, across this entire like large area, he's like, this guy is somebody that has a job and it has something to do with regular travel. Like he travels regularly for his work, and that he is probably tied to a production schedule, meaning that he probably picks out people and kills them like on work days or on work trips, because most of the murders were committed during the work week. So again, very accurate. So this guy was actually very accurate. So now what ended up happening though, and as I said, they were able to keep it from the media for a long time, but at this point, the media had started to report on it. And Andrei Chikatilo had started following the investigation in the media. So he actually kind of kept his shit on the down low for a little, because he knew that they were looking for him. And I guess he like read the profile and thought that it sounded kind of accurate. So he thought that he better tone it down for a little while because maybe they were onto him. So he actually didn't commit any murders that they know of throughout the entire year of 1986. So he was actually able to, tamp down the urges for an entire year, like I said, that they know of. However, in 1987, it seems like he couldn't help himself anymore, and he ended up killing 3 people in 1987. Now he actually would wait until he went on business trips when he was not in Rostov anymore. Like he would go on a business trip and then he would kill someone somewhere else. So he was aware of all of the shit going on and knew if I want to kill somebody, I have to do it not. And so they don't link it necessarily. They still did, but he was trying to be careful. So he actually killed a 13-year-old boy named Oleg Makarenkov in Revda. This was in 1987. And in July, he killed another boy, and then he killed another little boy in Leningrad in September of that year. He killed another 3 people in 1988. He killed an unidentified woman in Krasny Sulin in April, and 2 boys, 1 boy in May and 1 boy in July. Now, the woman that was killed, they didn't initially link her with this series because she'd been killed in an unusual way. I believe he did actually confess to this later, so they knew that it was him. But initially they didn't put this one in the series because she was killed in a weird way. I guess he had like beaten her to death with a slab of concrete, which that had not been seen in this series previously.
Somebody asked what was his body count? It's about 50, isn't it?
Between 52 and 56.
Yeah.
He confessed to 56. He was convicted of 52.
Usually when it gets up around the numbers that high, the offender themselves don't really remember exactly how many they killed. A lot of times they get the faces mixed up too. And
this was not a case, you see in cases like, Henry Lee Lucas or somebody like that just confesses to everything. This guy, they know that he killed this many people, not just because he confessed, but because when they caught him, he was suspected of 36 murders. But after he was in custody, he actually ended up confessing to 20 more and showed them where the bodies were because the bodies had not been found yet.
Yeah.
So they know that he killed those people because he was able to lead them directly to where the bodies were buried, like where he had put them. So they knew that he wasn't bullshitting. So probably it's 56, probably. That's how many he confessed to. He was convicted of 52. So that's a lot. How many was Gary Ridgway? Do we remember?
A lot.
A lot.
Wasn't it like 60 or 70 of them, something like that?
Now I can't even remember. We did a show about
it. Was like a shit ton.
Remember. I mean, this guy had a lot too, and
I think Ridgway was more. If I remember,
maybe.
If I remember correctly.
Like I said, it's not a contest. It's not.
Right.
That's not good. It's like, you know what I mean?
Ridgway just weaseled himself into this shit, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a weasel.
Mm-hmm.
This one was less. This guy actually, Chikatilo being a shitbag. You know, he was a shitbag.
Well,
he wasn't. Obviously. He wasn't as weaselly as Ridgway. If you were to put them side by side, Ridgway would look like a wimp next to Chikatilo. Chikatilo actually to me, comes off a little more threatening.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a huge dude, but I mean, he was tall.
Yeah.
But he was the thing about him was
if you were to put him in a fight, I think Chikatilo could fucking take Ridgway.
Yeah, he was bigger.
Yeah.
And like I said, the thing about Chikatilo was that one, he was super sadistic. Like he would just kind of like, you know, stab and fucking he would just bite pieces off of you and shit like that. Like he was a real introverted dude, but he wasn't like wimpy or anything. Like I said, I've seen pictures of him like as a teenager and as a young man and stuff, and he looked like a pretty big, you know, just average looking, like a fairly good looking dude. It's just that, and the thing about him too was that he got away with it so long was because he had a respectable job. He had a wife. He had kids. He had a normal life.
Neely says that Ridgway was convicted of 49.
Yeah.
All right. But he confessed to 71, though.
Yeah. So although, do they know, like I said, this guy, they're pretty sure that he committed at least the 52 that he was convicted for. And it would not surprise me if there were 4 more that he did confess to. Because, like I said, he did lead them to bodies that they didn't even know existed. Like they didn't even know those people were missing. They didn't even know those people were dead. And he said, hey, I killed this person and that person. And he did that like after he was in custody, and he led them right to the bodies. So, you know, and once he was in custody and they got him to confess, he would go right to the site and he would show them like exactly what happened. Like, you know, he would have one of the cops would like be the victim, and he would show them exactly how he had carried it out, which is kind of fucked up. And honestly, if you go to like Murderpedia, even if you just do a Google search without safe search on, there are many pictures of the crime scenes of this shit. I would not advise looking at them if you don't want to see this kind
crime
of shit.
Scenes of this kind of stuff. Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah. I didn't really even because I don't have safe search on ever like I said. But I was just like looking for pictures of him. It's like I scrolled down a little bit and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah.
What kind of stuff was it?
Just
people laid out on the ground.
Yeah, just like mutilated. He just mutilated people.
Yeah.
Like I said, he would gouge their eyes out. He would like cut their tits off. He would just it's horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we at the halfway point?
We're more than halfway.
We're more than halfway.
Probably.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take a break. Hold on.
Again?
Yeah.
Again, this is just what I said. I said it was like every 15 minutes he has to run to the bathroom. But yeah. All right. So where was I? Okay, so the woman that had been killed with a slab of concrete, even though they didn't initially link it to the investigation, like after he was caught and he confessed all the things, they actually did end up linking it, like, you know, after the fact. So May of 1988, he kills another little boy, a 9-year-old in Ukraine. Now, this kid that he killed pretty much had all the signature shit that Chikatilo usually did, eyes gouged out, all the mutilations. So they knew that it was the same dude at that point. July 14th of that year, he also killed another kid, a 15-year-old boy named Yevgeny Muratov. And this was near a bus station in Shakhty. His body actually didn't get found until almost a year later, but he was also linked to the investigation because the mutilations on the body were the same. Now, after that, which was, as I said, July 1988, it seemed like there was a gap. He didn't kill again until March of 1989. Now, at this stage, he killed a 16-year-old girl, and he killed her in, I guess his daughter was like full grown at this point and had her own apartment, but no one was living in it at the time. So he brought the 16-year-old girl to this empty apartment and killed her in there and cut the body up and then put the body parts like in a sewer. So because the body was completely cut up and put in the sewer, which was a little bit different than what he usually did. So initially this was not linked to the same series, even though, as I said, later he did confess to it. So they know that this was the same killer. But as I said, they didn't really, because it was a little bit of a deviation. Now, between May and August of 1989, he killed 4 more people. 3 of these were in Rostov and Shakti, which was his normal hunting grounds. Now, originally, like I said before he was caught, only 2 of these murders were linked to him because of the signature. The other 2 were not linked to him because the signature was a little bit different. They only knew that it was him later on after he confessed to them and, told them how he had done it. January 14th, 1990. He kills an 11-year-old boy in Shakti. March 7th, he killed another boy, a 10-year-old named Yaroslav Makarov in Rostov Botanical Gardens, and eviscerated the body, which was found the following day. Now, like I said, at this stage, this shit has been going on since 1978. Everyone is freaking out. The media knows now that this is a serial killer. Many of the bodies had been found with the same signature on them. As I said, eyes gouged out, various mutilations. So they know this is the same person. There's a madman running around loose, and they're wondering, the public is wondering why the authorities are not doing anything to catch this motherfucker. So, they're kind of like, under a lot of pressure to solve it. And at this stage, there's a lot of infighting going on with the authorities. This guy's going to get fired. It's like the shit's not going to get caught. If they don't get caught, you're going to get fired. You're going to get this, that, and the other. Now, by August 1990, Andrei Chikatilo had actually killed 3 more people. April 4th, he killed a 31-year-old woman in the woods. July 28th, he lured a 13-year-old boy away from a train station in Rostov and killed him in the Botanical Gardens. August 14th, he killed an 11-year-old boy, again, near like a beach in a place that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. So at this stage, because so many more victims have been piling up in a short amount of time, and because so many of the victims have been found near train stations, they decided, okay, well, in this one particular route, they're like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to saturate the larger train stations with just police. We're just going to watch everybody. We're going to watch everything. So they started doing that. Now, what ended up happening was that, as I said earlier, they just saturated the fucking train stations and bus stations and with cops. And they said any adult man that is in the company of a woman or a child, you stop them and you question them. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what they're doing. You just stop them, look at their papers, ask them what they're doing, ask them who this person is. So they were going kind of all out, to catch this dude.
Traffic must not have been that bad.
I don't know.
Stop every man with a child or a woman.
Well, that was the goal. I don't know if they actually ended up doing that or not, because that seems a little unrealistic.
It's fucking almost everybody.
Well, yeah, that'd be everybody. Every grown man that was with a woman or a child.
Yeah.
If you were with a woman and a child, although I'm going to say that's not, because he did actually kill a mom and daughter at one point.
Probably didn't actually happen that way. It probably happened. What probably happened is anybody who looks suspicious who is with a man or a child, because you can tell through the body language whether or not they were comfortable together.
If you look shifty, sure.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah. So they put this operation into effect October 27th, 1990. So 3 days after that, they find another body, a 16-year-old boy named Vadim Gromov. And this is near another train station. Now, he had actually been dead for 10 days. So he had actually been killed prior to this new thing that they were doing, where they were like staking out all the train stations. Now, on the same day that the body was found, October 30th, Andrei actually lured another 16-year-old boy named Viktor Tishenko off of a train at another station and killed him in a nearby forest. So this dude was, I mean, he had to have known that the cops were fucking crawling all over every bus and train station in this area, and he was still doing it anyway.
He was operating within an area that he was real
familiar with
and very confident. It was like an area. It was an area that fucking he knew very well, so he could say, "Oh, they're not here now." Fucking, that's what he was doing.
Or
Somewhere
he
around
was
his
confident
house.
in his ability to look
Yeah.
like a normal person.
Yeah.
I mean, how normal could you look though, like a grown man, like going up to a 16-year-old kid and being like, "Hey, kid, want some candy?"
The funny thing is about the Soviet Union during this era is that it was kind of a sleepy place. You're not talking about a real upbeat, fucking thriving area. Everything is kind of fucking spread out over a larger area. Everything is kind of fucking institutionalized in a certain way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? It's kind of like being on a damn military base. That's the way the Soviet Union was like. So there was a lot of areas that were slow because neighborhoods didn't exist based on how fucking economically viable they were. They existed based on what the government wanted. So there'd be a lot of areas that would they're kind of built up, but didn't hardly have any traffic. And that's where he's operating. You know what I mean? He's operating in a fucking chilled out, fucking kind of slow, sleepy areas.
I mean, this must have been, this was still, 1990, that was the year I graduated high school. But I mean, now that I think it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
And so, and you know, I'm not from the Soviet Union, so I don't know what it was like at that point.
It's supposed to be boring.
But it was kind of like, apparently he wasn't having too much trouble approaching teenagers or young women and being like, "Hey, I've got some food, or I've got this, that, and the other thing, and why don't you come with me?" And some people were.
After I got out of the army and moved to Boston, I hung out with a fucking Russian guy who was fucking hanging out in Man Ray. His name was Vadim Konyev. Konyev was his name. Vadim Konyev. He's back. He's in Germany now. And he was a fucking Russian goth guy. Same age as me. He was ex-military too, had long fucking black hair. And me and him were a fucking killer wingman team in the club. Fucking right. Vadim was the shit. And he looked like Antonio Banderas, like a Russian Antonio Banderas.
That's exactly who I was picturing.
That's what he looked like. Looked like a Russian Antonio
Banderas. From Interview
Banderas.
with the Vampire.
Yep.
The movie.
And he said that the Soviet Union was boring. That's really.
I've heard that.
It's just real boring.
Yeah.
And he was fucking in Boston having the time of his life. Very popular with the women. And he was a creation of a stripper. When he first showed up in the United States, he was dorky. And he moved in with a stripper who fucking just loved him and grew his hair out, and he fucking became a god.
And gave him some tips.
He gave him some tips, and he became. She educated him. She created a fucking monster. Is what happened, because he broke up with her and he started hanging out with me, and I was single at that time. We were fucking shit up.
Oh, I can.
It's like an American soldier.
I can imagine how that went.
An ex-American soldier, infantry soldier, and an ex-Russian infantry soldier in the goth scene. In the fucking 90s, in the fucking
we're getting
in
all
95.
The
See, people are always talking about the fucking Russians, this, the Russians that. You know what the fuck you're talking about. I was fucking partying with the Russians. Worked with the fucking Russians when I was in the service at the end, part of the Russians. They're just good dudes. You know, they're just good dudes.
Well,
and
like I said, most people around the world are pretty similar.
And he was
just the regular people are just regular people.
He told me that the Soviet Union was boring. That's the main problem with it. They didn't have cool clothes. It was if to get cool music, it was always Western music and you had to get it in the underground. You couldn't really show off fucking any subculture shit that you knew about. You had to
get in trouble, sure.
You kind of had to keep it low. Although they were all into it. Even like the
I
Russian,
believe it.
like, you know, you're in the Russian army and they fucking knew everything about fucking the Beatles, fucking the Rolling Stones, fucking Guns N' Roses. They knew all that shit. It's just that they kind of kept it low.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's the cool shit.
Yeah. And back in those days, that was the cool shit. So, but he just said it was boring.
I can see that.
Yeah. So it was just kind of boring.
And I kind of feel like that might have been how Chikatilo got away with his shit for so long, because he just came across as just like a normal, you know, he was a Communist Party dude. He was like he had a job, he had a wife, he had kids. He just looked like a regular guy. And I mean, the fact that he was just going to these train stations when he was on business trips and just picking up random people and taking them in the woods and killing them, it just really... And like I said, I feel like there was a misperception at the time that maybe there wasn't, that maybe they didn't have serial killers in the Soviet Union. I think they did. It was probably like a thing where they didn't really want that shit getting out. But I think there was a perception that serial killers, that was like a decadent Western thing.
Yeah. Because
we had so many. Which I don't know how true that is. I don't know how many they had in the Soviet Union because of the, you know, the way that they didn't like let information about that shit leak out.
According to Vadim, it was just this during his time. This is the 90s we're talking about.
Yeah.
He said it was like it was a developing nation and it was boring. You knew about the outside world, but they didn't have it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it was like everything was a pain in the ass.
You couldn't get a hold of it.
Yeah.
And in the mid 90s, but the Soviet Union fell, I think in 90, I think it was 91 is when it fell.
As far as I remember.
Yeah. And then like late 80s, you just couldn't get a hold of it, and then like after the Soviet Union fell, it was like an apocalypse that went on for a long time. And that's why he got out of there, because it was just like the end of the world. And a lot of people were dying and shit, fucking for lack of medicine and money, and taking dangerous jobs, and girls were disappearing and stuff because they would just get involved in fucking international sex trade and shit with the Middle East. And a lot of bad shit happened. It was like the Russian apocalypse or the end of the world. I asked him, I said, why, you know, when I talked to him last, I guess it was about 6 months ago, I hadn't seen him in a while. I talked to him a long time. And I said, I thought you'd be back in Russia now. And he's like, nah, I'm in Germany. And I said, why don't you go back there? You know, and he goes, it's still not really quite cool enough.
It's not cool enough.
Yeah, that's what he says. It's really not quite cool enough in Russia. So he's just in Germany. What used to be Eastern Germany. That's where he's at now.
Yeah. Man, remember that back in the old days?
Yeah,
it hasn't been like divided Germany in a long time. It's so weird.
I know.
So
we're from another era. These fucking young kids don't even know what the fuck
sometimes
they're talking about.
I know. Sometimes it seems like that. Like I don't feel like an old person necessarily, but when I think about that kind of shit, like, oh yeah, we remember like the Soviet Union, we remember divided Germany, we remember all that stuff. And it's like it's probably people from there don't even remember that.
Yeah.
Because it was such a long time ago. So so the next person he killed, like I said, at this stage, it seems like he's kind of like escalated all this shit. So he kills another person in early November of 1990. He kills this 22-year-old woman named Sveta Korostik. And this was in the woods near another train station. Now, at this stage, as I said, a lot of these train and bus stations had been kind of staked out by the authorities. So this time he got seen. So he went with this woman and he killed her in the woods. Now, when he was coming out of the woods and he was coming back to the station, an officer saw him coming out of the woods and he was coming back to the station, and he like went up to like a well and he washed his hands and his face. And as he was coming closer to the station, the officer noticed that he had like a little smear of something on his face, like that was red. and that he also had grass and like dirt stains on the elbows of his coat. And the officer thought that that looked a little suspicious, which it would, because like I said, they were looking for a serial killer at this stage. And he noted that, well, there was like a thing where I guess collecting wild mushrooms was kind of popular at the time. I don't know if it is anymore, but at the time it was very like popular for people to go off and like try to find mushrooms in the woods. And he's like, well, this guy didn't look like he was looking for mushrooms. He wasn't dressed right. He had a different kind of bag than people that would look for mushrooms would normally have. So they thought it was fishy. So this cop stopped him and he looked at his papers. However, he didn't really have enough to hold him on. So he couldn't really keep him because he's like, well, just looking kind of fishy isn't enough to retain somebody, even in Soviet Union. So he actually kind of came back. So he's like, all he could do, he let the dude go after he kind of like looked at his papers. But then he came back to the police station and he noted the dude's name down, Andrei Chikatilo, and he wrote it down and he kind of said like what was unusual and what had made him stop him that day. Now, the body of the kid that Andrei had killed at that point wasn't found until November 13th. What?
I want to show you guys something. This is Vadim now. That's what he looks like now.
He's cute.
Yeah. Back in the day, he had long black hair and shit. But that was him. See if he's got some more goth pictures back when we were fucking hanging out. See, he lives... Oh, he's actually living in Berlin now. Living in Berlin, Germany. All right.
I've never been to Berlin, but I've always wanted to go. I've heard it was a rad place. Anybody live in Berlin can tell me if it's a rad place. I mean, it used to be a rad place back in the day because I feel like a lot of musicians I was into like lived there for a time and really liked it. And it sounded cool.
Trying to see if I could. He doesn't have any old photographs from back in the day.
Ian B says,
"There's his daughter." Now, well, shit.
You fucked it up.
Yeah, I fucked it up. Yeah, that dude was he was a beast. He was a beast back in the day. Okay.
He looks a little bit like David Cronenberg.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
I mean, when David Cronenberg was really young.
Yeah, that was my Russian brother.
Ian B says, I don't understand how these serial killers enjoy killing. I don't get that either, but I think that's kind of why I find them fascinating because they seem so alien. Like, why? I don't understand like how you would get enjoyment out of hurting another, like an innocent person. Like, I can see hurting someone that was an asshole that kind of deserved it. Like, I get that.
Yeah, I can only understand it through hate and fighting.
That's what I mean. I get that.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody did some really fucked up shit, or like somebody, like I said, if somebody did something to you, or somebody did something to Pookie or something like that, I can understand like wanting to kill and eat that person.
They're doing
but just like a random person that didn't do anything to you, why would that? I don't.
Yeah, I don't get into this fucking
I don't
killing people for sexual gratification, killing a helpless person who's begging for sexual gratification. You gotta be some fucking real insecure motherfucker to get off on that shit. That's like a terrible.
But like I said, I think that's kind of why I find them fascinating. It's just because they're so alien to my mindset. Like, I don't understand why you would ever get enjoyment out of that. I was like, dude, I can't even like step on a bug. No. I feel bad just killing. Like, I don't, like I said, and I've said this on the show before, except for cockroaches, because fuck them. But it's like, I can't even kill a spider. For fuck's sake. I can't even kill a spider.
Oh, I smash a spider in a fucking heartbeat.
And I get mad at you about that because it's a spider.
I don't like spiders, man. Fucking, they're just creepy.
I like spiders. Yeah. But I like spiders because they eat cockroaches.
I can understand where you're coming from, but it's not, for me, it's not spiders, it's snakes. I don't like people that kill snakes for nothing. I don't even like.
I really don't like people. Snakes are awesome.
Yeah.
Even don't kill snakes.
Poisonous snakes. I've caught a lot of them. Let them go. Coral snakes, rattlesnakes. Diamondback rattlers,
we have had snakes get into
go.
Our house. Actually, Pookie brought a baby snake into our house one day.
Yeah.
She was so proud.
Yeah.
We rescued it. We put it back outside. But I don't understand, like, well, because like I said, my grandmother used to like kill snakes.
Just because
That
it was
were
a
in her.
snake. Yeah.
Yeah, and she used to cut its head, and they said, "But
Yeah.
no. It's like, don't."
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always had like pets that were reptiles. Like I've always had lizards and stuff like that. So it bothers me that people are so weirded out by reptiles. I mean, I think they're adorable.
Yeah.
Don't hurt reptiles, you guys. I mean, seriously, other than cockroaches, which fuck them. Like I said, I can't kill bees. I can't kill spiders. I can't kill anything like that. So I can't imagine enjoying killing a person that didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I can't imagine getting any kind of satisfaction out of that. I can't imagine. Like I said, I understand if somebody did something really fucked up or they did something really horrible to you. I get that.
Killing somebody for sexual motives, for sexual reasons.
Yeah, weird. Why? It's like I don't understand. I don't understand
well,
people
it's like a perversion. It's an evil.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand people who's like.
It's very much an outlier. This is at an extreme end of fucking human behavior.
And I think that's why a lot of people are fascinated with them. And that's kind of what makes me feel better about it, because I think that people feel like people that are fascinated with serial killers, they're like, oh, that's messed up and everything. I don't think it's messed up. I think that the fact that people are fascinated with them is good, because the fact that people are fascinated with them means that they're unusual and people find that shit strange.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's strange. And that's good, because if everybody thought like that, then no one would think it was strange, which would be really worrying.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying. You all right?
Yeah. I could use another break. I'm gonna get another break in a minute.
You gonna go get another drink?
I need another drink too, yeah. How much is left on the show?
You can take one. I don't know.
How are we doing on the show?
You can take one if you want to.
Okay. Hold on.
Me and Dennis will.
You and Dennis gonna fucking chill out?
I can't do Dennis's voice.
Dennis has got a hold of it. All right. Dennis has got
I'm just gonna make his head bob. All right. So where was I? So yeah, like I said. So they find this kid's body. Now, when they find the body, they go back and they're like, okay, well, who are all the people that you stopped on this particular day by this particular train station, like near where we found the body? So one of the names that came up was Andrei Chikatilo's name. So he was kind of like, went not necessarily the top of the list, but in one of the top of the list, because he had been questioned in 1984 for a similar type of crime, and had also been placed on the list in 1987 of suspects of this crime. So he kind of went to like the top tier of like people they were worried about. Now, what they did, they started like looking into Andrei Chikatilo's background. And when they did that, they noticed that when they looked into where he was at particular times, they noticed that he was in a lot of the towns where a lot of these bodies turned up at the times when these bodies were would have had to have been murdered, which they found was very suspicious. Also, they kind of looked into his teaching days from, back in the old times, and found out that he had been fired because of his the allegations of molestation against students, and they thought that was suspicious as well. So because of all of these things, they decided that there was enough evidence to put him under surveillance. So November 14th, they put him under surveillance. And what they noticed was that when they were watching him, he very often would be at a train station and he would approach either kids or young women who were alone. And he would go up to them in a train station or a bus station, and he would, strike up a conversation. And if that woman or that child would talk to him a minute and then they would take off or whatever, then he would wait a couple minutes and then he would approach someone else, like another kid or another woman by themselves, and engage them in conversation as well, which the police found, again, very suspicious, as you would. So they kept him under surveillance for 6 days. November 20th, after the 6 days of surveillance, they saw that Andrei had left his house and he had this big flask. It was either full of beer or it was going to be filled with beer at some point, because that was one thing that he used to like lure people in, like, hey, I've got alcohol, or hey, I've got money, hey, I've got candy, whatever. So what he did was he filled this up with beer. He would go around the town, the bus station, the train station, and he would go up to kids or young women and he would be like, hey, I have alcohol, hey, come with me or whatever. So again, they were watching him and it seemed really suspicious. So at this point, they're like, okay, well, we have enough, evidence to at least bring him in on this charge after 6 days. So he comes out of a cafe and 4 officers who were in plain clothes ended up taking him into custody. Now, when they first brought Andrei into custody, he initially insisted that he was innocent. He hadn't done anything wrong. He's like, look, I've been arrested for something similar in 1984 for this same series, and they didn't find anything. And, you guys are just picking on me, whatever. So at this stage, they do a strip search of him. Now, when they do a strip search, they find that one of his fingers had a wound on it. And the wound that they found on his finger appeared to be a human bite mark. And they presumed that one of his victims, which was a 16-year-old teenage boy, had bitten him during the course of him like kidnapping and attacking this boy. So this was yet another, yet more evidence. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Whoo, man, that shit was strong. It's okay, I got it. I got this shit under control. Don't worry, people.
I have a feeling that you don't actually.
Oh man. Damn.
So as I said, when they searched him, they found a bite mark and they said, okay, well, the last victim that they found, the teenage boy, it did look like from the state of the body that it looked like this particular victim had mightily struggled against his attacker. And it's entirely possible that he had bitten his attacker in the course of the struggle. So it does look like this is this is looking like our man. And they also found it very suspicious that even though Andrei had this bite on his finger, and apparently the victim had bitten a fingernail off, there was like a huge, it was a big wound. And they couldn't find any medical records that Andrei had ever gone to a hospital to see about this wound. So they thought that was also very suspicious. So that was another thing that kind of led them to believe that maybe they had finally got their man. They searched through his belongings, found they also found a folding knife in his possession when they caught him. So they put him in a cell at the KGB headquarters in Rostov. And they put him in there with a police informant. Now, this guy was supposed to as they do, they're supposed to he's supposed to talk to the guy and get him to confess to something. So they start formally questioning him on the 21st of November. This is 1989, I believe, or 1990 rather. So what they were going to do was that they figured that the best way to go about this was to approach him in a way that could let him kind of offload the guilt for the shit, like by saying that maybe you're crazy, and so maybe we can get you some help.
They try to get him to plead guilty.
Right. That's kind of what they were trying to do. Yeah. They were trying to get him to confess to an insanity. So that was actually probably a smart thing to do.
Pretty smart, yeah.
So that's kind of how they approached it.
They wanted to take the easy path. They want to give him an easy way out.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they knew that they didn't have a lot of physical evidence. Because what I neglected to mention before, and I will kind of go into it now, was that they did actually they got a blood type from some of the semen samples because like I said, this happened in the early 80s. So there was no DNA, there was nothing like that, but you could establish a blood type from a semen sample. However, the problem was that the semen samples that they got from the crime scenes indicated that the blood type of the killer was AB.
Look who it is.
Oh my goodness, Pookie came in.
You were sleeping your ass off most of the time.
Yeah, she's been napping all day.
What's up?
What's up, Pokey?
She's asking me to go outside. She's like, let's go outside.
Do you want to go outside, Pokey?
Come here. Come here.
Do you want to be on
Go
the
ahead.
show?
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm bringing her.
Yeah, so it looked like the blood type was AB. Problem was, when they took a blood sample from Andrei Chikatilo, blood type was A. So a lot of times they were like, well, he doesn't match, so he's not the killer. What they didn't find out until later on was that Andrei Chikatilo is what they call, it's a very rare thing called a non-secretor. That means that your blood type cannot be determined from your semen or your saliva or anything like that. It'll only be from the blood, right? So since they didn't have a blood sample from the crime scenes, they only had semen and saliva, which indicated a different blood type, then the blood type seemed like it was not a match, even though it was indeed from the same dude. Like I said, this is a very rare thing, but they do know about it. It does happen from time to time, and that was indeed what happened in this case. So I'm not going to blame the authorities in this case, because that was something that was not real well known at the time, that you could actually have a thing where someone's semen and someone's blood indicated different blood types. So it looked like it wasn't the same person, even though it was indeed the same person. So as I said, they were trying to get Andrei to confess to the shit by kind of encouraging him that maybe you'll be able to get off in an insanity defense. So that's kind of what they were hoping to do. And like I said, it seemed like a smart thing to do, because it did end up kind of working out. So at this stage, they didn't have, like I said, they didn't have a lot of physical evidence. So they were really pushing to get a confession, because they said this is kind of the only thing that's going to like clinch the case. We don't have a lot of other physical evidence otherwise. And under Soviet law at that time, you could only keep the person in custody for 10 days without charging them. After that, you had to let them go. So they were kind of like, they were kind of on a time constraint at this stage. Now, so at first, when they start questioning Andrei Chikatilo about the crimes, he's denying. Now, he did readily admit that he had molested his students when he was a teacher. So he wasn't embarrassed about that, apparently, because he very readily confessed to doing that. He would write a bunch of stuff for like the psychiatrist, like I said, that produced the, the profile about him. And he actually asked Andrei to write some essays for him. Now, even though in these essays, it did seem like he was denying the murders, like some of the stuff that he said was, led them to believe that he probably did do them, like the way that he worded certain things. So what they ended up doing, so they bring in the psychiatrist to help question him as well. And apparently whatever the psychiatrist did, like during the questioning, was really effective, because even though Andrei had been denying committing the murders, after only 2 hours with the psychiatrist, he broke down and confessed to 36 murders, the same ones that had all been linked to the same killer.
Found his soft spot somehow.
I guess he did. Well,
Yeah.
like I said, psychiatrists, man, it's like, people shit on them, but they know what they're doing. This one earned their money, apparently. Now, they actually had 2 other cases that they had attributed to him that he denied committing. So that might have been another person. I'm not really sure. But he did readily admit to, after the 2 hours of interrogation, he did readily admit these 36 murders. Not only that, but he came forward too and said, hey, not only those 36, I've also committed these 20 more.
Damn.
And hey, do you want to know where the bodies are? Because I will show you. So he did actually end up, like I said, it wasn't bullshit. It wasn't some Henry Lee Lucas shit, because he did actually lead them to these burial sites of 20 more.
Well, once you confess to
crimes,
30, confessing to 20
36,
more,
yeah.
What's the difference?
So they did actually, he did actually lead them to several that they hadn't even found, like bodies that they hadn't even found.
Yeah, he knew the number off the top of his head?
Evidently.
Yeah.
See, this is another thing, and we talked about this on the Gary Ridgway show. We've talked about this on serial killers that have these really like alarmingly high body counts. It's like you would think, like, I can barely remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
How, like, if you've killed 56 people,
Yeah,
for
wouldn't
example,
you lose count?
over 12 years.
Yeah.
How would you remember the details? I don't understand how you would remember the details.
And do you care at a certain point?
That's what I mean.
Care
it's like
how many of them it was?
how,
Like,
I forget shit
count,
that I give a shit about.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So I would think if you're a serial killer, I'm just extrapolating. I'm not a serial killer. I don't think that way. But it's like if you were a serial killer and you just see other people as objects for your own edification.
Yeah.
How do you remember?
Yeah. How many of them there were?
How many of them there were? What their names were? And where they're buried? How do you remember that?
And do you bother keeping count? I would think no.
I would think that too, but it's like I guess I might be mistaken about that.
I would think that you wouldn't give a shit how many of them you killed.
That's what I would think that, but
I would think so too. And then like after fucking 10 or 15 of them, you're not even keeping count. You're just living your life, killing people like you do. You're not really counting them.
I mean,
think about it. Can you count? I can't count how many women I had sex with. Because I don't keep count.
Because there were so many.
No. I'm just saying I just don't keep count.
Yeah. Well, it gets to a point where, well, and it's not something that you think about all the time because it's not super important to your day-to-day
It's not like
life.
I'm saying I'm a hoe. I'm just saying that I don't count them because that wasn't the priority. It was just normal life.
It was just normal shit that happened.
Life,
sure.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
I feel like,
I would think that because this is their sexual orientation, are they counting? I would think that maybe BTK would be counting. Dennis would probably count.
The thing
because I think he was lucky. He felt himself lucky to have a sexual experience.
The thing about BTK, and I think there are some similarities with this guy as well. I feel like what happens is the reason that Dennis Rader remembered all this shit, and maybe the reason that Andrei Chikatilo remembered the shit as well, was that because he remembered it because he would bring it back
over and over again,
in his head, and like it was it was a conquest, it was a source of sexual power. It was something that he would fantasize about later. So he remembered it later on as he would like bring it back in his head. So maybe that's why they remember better than others, because it's like I feel like, I don't know, man, if somebody like asked me, hey, I don't even remember, like I said, I've spent months and months like writing a short story or a novel or something like that, for example. And then like a couple of years later, I read it and I don't remember like writing that. Yeah, so it's like the fact that people can kill someone. Yeah,
read what Moped Problem said. He's got a good point.
Some of them probably keep little journals and notes like they probably do.
Like a 12-year-old girl.
I think
about BTK, how many boys they kissed. Yeah.
BTK did that kind of shit because the thing about Dennis Rader, and I think this might apply in this situation as well, is that he spent so much time fantasizing and planning and laying out
such a big deal,
every detail of what he was going to do. Like it was a source of pleasure to him just to plan. Even if he didn't do it, it was like a big source of like, he would make all these notes and like diagrams and all this kind of shit. Yeah. So I feel like that was a similar kind of situation.
So it is not a normal sexuality what we're talking about.
Obviously.
It's like more childlike, what they're saying, where they're constantly thinking about how many boys they kissed. That's exactly what it's probably you got. I think he nailed it.
Infantile.
I think he nailed that.
It's an infantile kind of way to go about it, because
adults don't keep score.
Normal adult people have too many other things going on in their life
to give a shit about.
It's like, dude, I am too upset. Like every day, it's like I just take every one day at a time. It's like I have so many things to do. It's like, oh shit, I got to do laundry today. I got to do this, that, and the other thing. It's like I can't remember all of that crap.
Everything that happened. Right.
I just can't.
It's not important.
Right. And it's like, especially stuff
you were just going with the ebb and flow
10 years ago. I don't remember anything that happened 10 years ago.
A normal person just goes with the normal ebb and flow of daily life.
Right.
Some things happen, some things don't happen. You're just dealing with it. You don't really care.
Right. Yeah. Because you have like more immediate concerns. You got more immediate concerns. Like I said,
the big picture, not the little picture.
Right. I have things that I have to do today. It's like I can't. And like I said, I'm not saying that 10 years ago that wasn't important in my life. I'm just saying I don't really remember much about what happened back then. Like if somebody asked me, hey, what were you doing on this day 10 years ago?
Right.
I would not be able to tell you. There's like no fucking way.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like that's kind of part of the fascination or part of the pathology is that their whole lives are so oriented around this one thing that it's like an obsession for them. And the fact that they do remember all these details, the fact that this dude could not only confess to these 36 murders, but also confess, hey, there's these 20 other ones that you guys don't even know about. And here are the bodies. And he led them to where the bodies were he remembered. And that just blows my fucking mind. Yeah. It blows my fucking mind. But like I said, that's why I'm not, thankfully, that's why I'm not a serial killer, because my brain doesn't work
you
like
got it right.
that.
It's a juvenile mindset.
It is. It is very, I think it's very stunted.
Somebody who's not developed. Right.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is.
They're not well developed, and just any little old thing is a big deal to them.
Yeah, they're making
and they're fucking edgelords.
Right. There's this entire construction that they built around it. And I mean, even though I feel like in a lot of ways, Chikatilo was a lot less organized than someone like Dennis Rader was. I mean, Dennis Rader, as he can probably tell us, because there he is right there.
Yeah.
I'm keeping out of this.
He kept, extensive notebooks, and he was very, that was kind of like his whole second life. Like, and he had like diagrams and everything. Like, so that was like his whole thing.
Well, I'm an artist. I'm an artist about this. You know what I mean? A real man has to keep records. That's kind of
Now I feel like Chikatilo was more, like I said, he was more opportunistic.
Yeah, hold on, turn this way.
In the sense that
looking at you people.
Sort of for maximum
look
for maximum creep factor.
Dennis' little bald ass head.
I know. I'm just gonna rub.
That's a good action figure. Sophie sent that, didn't she?
She did, yeah.
Yeah, it was fucking hilarious.
I know. It's like I went to that site to like look at it. I was like, oh my god, they have a Richard Ramirez one. They have like so many other ones. Yeah. That's so messed up, but it's like I don't know. I find them amusing because, like I said, serial killers. I feel like people that are terrible like that. I feel like in a lot of ways we should probably just. I'm not downplaying like. The shit they did to the victims, because obviously that's horrific.
No, but you should remember those guys. Yeah.
Mock them.
Yeah.
Like, because they hate that.
Yeah.
I feel like you should always, like, serial killers
make
are horrible people, so make them...
They should become a meme.
Yeah, just make fun of them, because they would hate that more than anything. They want to be badasses. Right. They want to be scary. Yeah. Don't give them that.
Right.
Don't give them
that's not what that's not what they are.
Exactly.
They're not scary.
Don't give them
They're fucking pitiful.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not downplaying the victims at all, because like I said, that's horrible. And if that happened to someone I love, that would be like horrible. But don't buy into like what they want, like the narrative that they want to like.
They're monstrous motherfuckers, but they're not powerful and they're not fucking strong. They always kill a person much weaker than them. It's not a challenge for them.
Right. All. Okay. And like I said,
you're not talking about a David and Goliath situation.
Yeah.
You're not talking about fucking slaying dragons and shit. You're talking about somebody who's punching down bigger than a motherfucker.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And that's why I talk about them. I find them psychologically fascinating, but also I think that they should be denigrated and made fun of.
Yeah.
Mostly because I know that they would hate that, because that's not what they want. They want to be seen as powerful. They want to be seen as demonic and scary.
Well, a lot of people
don't give them that. Don't give them that.
A lot of people want me to channel.
Thank you, Nico.
They want me to channel. Thank you very much, Nico. Show us some of them goddamn flashbulbs. They want me to channel fucking Dennis, because Dennis is best remembered as a meme. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. He's a meme. Yeah. Well, because that's the way he was. There was nothing really deeper to him than that.
Right. Really. As much as he tried to. They try to make themselves out to be more than they are.
I'm running my projects and I'm going to,
Which to me, like I said,
I like dead pussy. I'm gonna take pictures of it.
Right.
That's how because that's how ridiculous
to me
it is.
Makes them
that's how ridiculous
interesting,
it is.
But it also makes me want to mock them even more, because I know how much they don't like it.
I'm gonna put on some pantyhose, put on some panties, and take a picture of myself.
Right.
Yeah, that's fucking what he was. That's all it is. You know, put on some garters and fucking take a picture of myself.
And the thing about it, it's like if dudes
down in the grave in a hole in the ground.
if dudes want to do that and not kill anyone, then hey, knock yourself out. I'm not judging.
That is not what this was.
But you do this and then you kill people too, then I will absolutely mock you for that.
The motherfuckers that we know that are going to put on fucking garter belts are going to do that shit because it's a fucking lark. And they're going to be talking about the fucking
and they'll go
jumping
out
through the time warp. They're in the middle of the club, and they're going to be fucking dancing.
They're not ashamed of it.
No.
Don't be ashamed of that shit.
No, they're going to be doing
the
Rocky
shit,
Horror Picture Show. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Hayden.
Thank you.
Show us some of those flash bulbs. Show us some of those flash bulbs.
Because this is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's a fucking totally different fucking deal than what Dennis was up to.
See, I think
totally different.
Dennis saw himself as a man. I'm a real man.
Yeah, that's fucking when he was talking. That's the angle he was
coming
and
there's your problem, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like now, see, this is like I said, this is another thing.
These were bad people, and you know, I'm a good person, and you know, but I had the X factor, you know.
He had the X factor,
and you know,
he had his
might
PJs that he had to
have to put on a pair of stockings and kill a bitch and take a picture of her at the church. That's a weird shit, man. I'm gonna take you to the church and lay you out.
This is another thing. Let's get into this a little bit because this is still relevant to the case of Chikatilo because I feel like the cultural perception, let's say, of masculinity is something that maybe not nowadays so much, but it used to feed into the pathology of people that became serial killers.
Yeah.
I mean,
hold on.
What's that?
That's Nico Gilbert. Matter of fact, Nico's getting shirts from us, isn't he? I believe so. Isn't Nico fucking...
I don't know, probably. I have to look, like I said.
You got the records, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just saying what's up to Nico. He's a regular. I remember that, you know. And then Hayden Santos, that's a new guy. Hayden.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a new guy. Thank you very much, Hayden.
Not that new, but like a couple weeks,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But so I feel like, and as I said, it's kind of relevant in the case of BTK. It's kind of relevant in the case of Andrei Chikatilo because you're a little... Okay, so I feel like there's kind of a thing where people's perception of what masculinity should be. You know, in BTK's case, where you have to be a family man, you have to be a Christian, you have to be this, that, and the other. In Chikatilo's case, you have to be, again, a family man. You have to be able to get it up. You have to, you know, have children. You have to do the things that a man should do. And their failure to meet these criteria is kind of what drove them to becoming serial killers. And I'm not saying that, like, obviously other people didn't meet those criteria, but dealt with it in a healthier way than obviously going out and killing random people, because not a lot of people do that. But
let me tell you guys something.
Well, and I think that shame is a thing too, because BTK had a thing where he had this whole other life. I mean, the whole secret life.
These were
Chikatilo had a thing too, where he was kind of like had a whole separate life from his wife and his children.
These were men from a prior generation, and in Chikatilo's fucking situation, he was a man from the Soviet Union. It was a totally different civilization. It had different fucking, you know what I mean, had different cultural values and everything. Not all men are the same. They're just not.
Well, not all anybody is the same.
People are different.
Everybody's
I mean,
different.
if you were to look at fucking my life on paper, I fulfilled all that traditional, a lot of that for traditional manly shit. I don't really consider that to be everything there is about me. And there's a lot of dudes that I respect like a motherfucker that didn't do what I did.
Do any of that shit.
That I give them there's a lot of different kinds of men.
Well, there's a lot of different paths to get to.
You got fucking George S. Patton motherfuckers. You know what I mean? That I respect. But then you got guys like fucking like fucking Wagner. You know what I'm talking about? And guys like fucking Wolfgang Amadeus, Mozart Amadeus. You know? You got guys like that. And you got guys like Eddie Van Halen. There's a lot of different kind of guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of different types of ways to make it. So I don't really understand what is up with these dudes.
I think the problem in general is rigidity.
Yeah, too fucking rigid.
And that's just not
fucking rigid.
That's not with men, that's with everybody. It's like
Yeah.
you can't have like a rigid conception of people should be like this.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
that's just not the way to approach, because everybody's different. Everybody has their own contribution.
Now, I do believe that there should be a tendency. You know what I mean? Like, men should tend towards a certain
I don't
qualities.
even know if I'd go that far.
I believe most of them should, because that helps a civilization run smoothly. But having outliers that are talented, that's acceptable too. You know what I'm talking about?
And you never, the thing about it, and I kind of approach this every time I meet somebody, I don't know what that person has gone through. I don't know what that person has to offer. I don't know what's that. I don't know. So it's like, you can't just right off the bat, whatever they look like or whatever they sound like or whatever, you can't like judge that person. It's like, oh, that person is useless, or that person is this, that, and the other thing, because you don't know that person. You don't know what they have to offer.
There are many different ways, and we're talking about men. There are many different ways to be a man, but you always want to be a useful man. You know what I'm talking about?
Everybody wants to be useful. Everyone should strive to be useful in some way. To mankind. You have to be useful to mankind. Right. And I think that's a good thing for everybody, not just men, but women as well.
But we also have to say that there are also dudes that are fucking destructive to mankind.
Sure.
Including these dudes that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And apathetic motherfuckers are also kind of fucking destructive to mankind.
Just have something to contribute, however
you have
small.
to be able to fucking
even if it's something small.
You have to contribute in some kind of creative way.
Yeah. Even if it's just like, even
if it's only to your own family. Even
like
if
I said,
to your own family.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything like fucking earth shattering. No. But if you can make something, like I said, even if it's something, it's like, oh, you make a YouTube channel that makes me laugh.
Right.
Or you write a story that like amuses me, or you do something like that. That to me, that's useful.
Or you take care of your family.
Yeah, it's like you don't even have to do everything for general people. It's like you take care of your family, take care of your husband, you take care of your wife, you take care of your kids. It's like that's enough. You don't have to like, yes, it would be good if you could like, take care of more people than that, but it's like it doesn't matter if you don't.
Yeah, that is true. I believe that all people, though, in general, should aspire to excellence. You should always be as excellent as you could possibly be.
Don't be
a detriment to other people.
Right.
That's the deal.
That's what I'm saying. As long as you're not detrimental, don't be a dick.
Right.
Don't be actively hostile toward people. Don't be like a pain in the ass for no reason.
Yeah.
It's like, as long as you're not doing that, just don't do harm. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it depends. Don't do harm to decent people. There are bad people too.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to like punch someone that is a serial killer, then that is fine. No one will argue with that.
I think they understand what we're talking about.
Right. It's like, if somebody wants to kill somebody that's a serial killer, no one's going to complain about that ever.
Well, the law the law says it's not you. It's not your authority to do that.
Although honestly,
but then again, you look at the law and fucking.
If the situation arose, if they knew later that person was a serial killer and somebody took them out, I feel like no jury would convict that person.
I don't really worry about the law. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think anyone would convict that person.
Yeah. Just cover your own ass. Do what you think is right. Fucking
just
watch your ass.
In general, I think it's just a good idea. Just try to be a good person. Just don't be a douche. Apparently, that's really hard for some people. I don't know why, but just don't be a douche.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's hard, but it's hard. But yeah, so this dude apparently found it very difficult not to be a douche because he went around killing like more than 50 people. So as I said, they initially convict him, or they initially accuse him of 36 murders. He says, oh, guess what? There's 20 more that you guys don't even know about yet. So he leads them to the bodies or whatever. So he leads them to several other bodies, including a couple other kids. He killed one in 1989 that he buried by a cemetery, whatnot. Now, 3 of the murders that he confessed to, they couldn't find a body that corresponded to that confession. that doesn't mean he didn't kill them. It just meant that he either forgot where he buried him or they couldn't find the body or whatever. So like I said, I'm erring on the side of he probably killed 56 people, but they only charged him for 53 because they couldn't find enough evidence for the last 3 that he confessed to. So they put him in the jail there. They took him out. He did like reenactments of all the crime scenes.
I remember that shit. When he was in the courtroom, they had him in a damn fucking cage.
They did.
Yeah.
You know why they put him in a cage? Because all of the families, the victims,
they're afraid they were going to kill him.
Basically were like, give him to us.
You're right, yeah.
They were going to tear that dude limb from limb, which, I mean...
It's a lot of photographs of him in that damn cage in the courtroom.
I don't think anyone would have been particularly upset if he had been torn limb from limb by the victims' families. I mean, in this case, like I said, I don't advocate that kind of shit normally. But in this case, I think it's completely understandable. If your child had been killed by this person and he had admitted it, showed them where the body was and everything like that, I don't really think anyone would blame you if you wanted to tear that dude like into pieces. I don't think anyone
Somebody named Fire Pixie is asking Dennis if he could answer some questions for her book. Dennis is not with us. I'm a Dennis impersonator. Okay.
Well, what kind of questions are we talking about?
I'm a Dennis impersonator.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to get this one fucking done because I want to cook. I want to cook some Indian food. I'm getting fucking hungry.
Really? At this time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's not that late.
No, it's not late at all. It's still light out.
Oh my God. Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap.
Sunny's
I thought
even
for
down
some
yet.
reason, I thought it was like
No.
super late at
Still
night.
daytime.
It's only like 10 past 8.
Yeah, it doesn't get dark till 9
it's
here.
Still light out. It's Florida. It's summer.
Yeah, Florida gets dark at like 9 in the evening.
Not even like 9:30.
9:30, yeah.
Yeah. So initially they were trying to there was kind of a back and forth about whether they were going to go for an insanity offense because clearly this dude was had some problems. Let's say that. But so they had like I believe 6 different psychiatrists that analyzed this dude like over a several day or week period, and they came to the conclusion that this dude was sane and competent to stand trial. So they put him on trial, and as you mentioned earlier, when he was put on trial in 1992. They put him in a cage because all of the families of the victims basically wanted to tear him limb from limb and kept telling the authorities, please give him to us. We want to kill him. And so they were worried about his safety because, understandably. So they put him in this fucking cage. Now, during the trial, so they shaved his head, which was a thing that they usually did back then because of lice and whatnot. So during the trial, I feel like this was kind of a case where I don't know if he was intentionally trying to make it seem like he was crazy. I kind of suspect that he was. But when he's in the cage, he was acting very erratic. Like he would sit in there, he would give some testimony, he would break out into song. He would, as I said earlier, pull his pants down and like shake his dick at people and be like, look at this useless thing. And this is what caused everything and that kind of shit. He would pull that kind of shit.
I think he's full of shit. Yeah,
I kind of suspect as well. I don't think he was that stupid. I think he
was trying to get an insanity plea and get a lighter sentence.
Yeah, I kind of feel that. He wasn't a stupid person. He really wasn't. And I don't think that he was crazy in the sense that he didn't know what he was doing is wrong.
No, he was crazy in the sense that a serial killer is crazy.
Yeah, and as I said, and I think this is a good kind of metric is that legally you're not insane in a court of law unless you can't determine the difference between right and wrong.
No, he knew what that was.
Like if you're killing people and you just be like, yeah, I killed the person, whatever. And it's like, you don't seem to like realize that that's a bad thing to do. Okay. That's crazy. But if you did make some attempt to hide it, if you then obviously you knew what you were doing. You knew what you were doing was wrong.
Yeah.
And that can't be classified as insanity. And I think that's a good, rule of thumb.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what they went with this. And I do feel like he was trying to go, woo, look how crazy I am. I'm
That's what I thought. At the time.
thrusting my penis at everyone. Talking about how useless it is. And that's what made me kill everyone because I was impotent and whatnot. But I don't think it worked on anyone honestly.
Well, I remember, when this is going down, I was a kid. I remember seeing him and thinking that dude was fucking acting up. Who he reminded me of? He reminded me of Applewhite. Remember that fucking crazy?
Yeah, he did.
Reminded me a lot of Applewhite.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that's a different kind of crazy. But he wasn't that crazy. He was just crazy in the way that a serial killer was crazy.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
That's a different type of...
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would call that wrong. Crazy. Yeah, you still know it's bad, but you're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And I feel like the thing about this was he tried to get a different judge because the judge in this case was clearly not having it. And he was not...
They saw through it too.
Biased in his favor. So for a long time, he was trying to... It's hey, the judge is biased against me, blah, blah, blah. His defense attorney was arguing that as well. But in the end...
they're asking if he had stalkers. No, I don't think he had stalkers.
Oh, God, I hope not.
No.
Did he?
No. That was an American phenomenon. I don't think that would...
What's the matter with us?
Well, it was the United States is a free society. There wouldn't be any negative repercussions if you were a fan of a serial killer here. Matter of fact, they might put you on television if you're a fan of him. But in the Soviet Union, they might lock your ass up.
Yeah, I guess there's really
so
no
they
positive outcome.
No, there's no positive outcomes, even for loser chicks.
Yeah, because I don't really get that. I don't like I said, I'm fascinated with serial killers, but from a point of view of this is an alien mindset from a human, not that that's so sexy.
In the United
I don't get that.
In the Soviet Union, if you were a woman and you stepped forward fucking as a fan, they would go, "Oh, you must have conspired with him. You helped him, didn't you?" That's what would happen.
They'll take you away in a van in the middle of the night.
They were you'd become a suspect immediately then.
Yeah. Because I said,
Russia didn't play.
I don't know. Intellectually, I understand that shit. Because some women have really low self-esteem. I get that. And
they're trying to become famous too.
And it's not only do you want to get with someone who can't cheat on you because they're in prison, and there's that whole I can change him thing because I'm super special. It's a narcissism thing. Some women have this weird thing where it's I'm gonna rehabilitate the bad boy.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big thing.
Somebody said Dennis had a lot of hoes. I don't think Dennis got a lot of hoes.
Did he though?
I don't think so because I don't feel
like he maybe
he wasn't the right age group.
He's not super foxy either.
No,
I'm not saying serial killers are super foxy, but
you had to be younger and have a
right. He wasn't one that would inspire a lot of that. Somebody like Ted Bundy or even Richard Ramirez or something like that was younger. That was kind of more
vital,
conventionally attractive. Yeah. With fucking bunny rabbit ears. I'm just, I feel like Dennis just looked like a schlubby middle-aged dad.
He was the schlubby middle-aged dog catcher.
Yeah, and it's unless you're into schlubby middle-aged dads, which not a lot of women are,
not sexy,
then I don't really see anybody being all up in that.
No.
Because
not sexy.
Sorry, Dennis. Just saying. I'm not saying I find Ted Bundy particularly attractive either, because I don't. I'm just saying that.
But that fits more.
Well, he looks more like a normal younger person. If he wasn't a serial killer, he would probably
There's a certain kind of woman that's just into the serial killer bad boy thing.
I think, like I said, as a woman personally, like I said, I'm kind of an outlier woman, so I don't pretend to understand how other women's psychology is. I would never, go there with that because everyone's different. But I do feel like there is definitely a thing where you feel like you're the only one, like, this is a serial killer. This is a person that has killed women in the past, but you're going to be the person
That's
that
going to fix him.
saves him or
Right.
fixes him.
And everyone's going to see you fixing him.
That is a fantasy that a
And
lot
you-
of women have.
and
I mean,
you're-
if you read
yeah.
like romance novels and shit like that, it's a whole genre.
Right.
That's a whole
And-
genre.
and the whole
it's messed
world-
up, but
And
it's
the
a whole
whole
genre.
world's going to see it happen.
Right.
That's
You're
the
you're
fantasy.
going to be the person.
Yeah.
You are so special
Yeah.
that you can make a serial killer
Become a
be
good man.
a normal person.
And it's all going to be documented on television. That's
Yeah.
that's why they're doing
I
it.
feel like that's kind of
Yeah.
what it is. I don't think it's anything more than that. I don't think that there's any
Boils down to 3 fucking words. Bitches be crazy. It's the bitches be crazy factor.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
funny how dudes always say that, but I always found dudes way crazier.
No,
Women are crazier in much less threatening ways,
bitches be crazy.
generally. When dudes are crazy,
It's obvious when dudes. Are
well,
crazy.
when dudes are crazy, they'll like shoot up a place.
yeah, people die when dudes are crazy.
Women don't usually do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
They don't usually.
Man,
I mean, women go crazy and maybe something bad happens,
Yeah.
but they don't usually like shoot up a whole fucking place or like blow up a whole building.
so
or
how
anything.
much is left
Not much.
to the Chikatilo case?
What, are you getting all impatient?
Yeah, it's getting late. I'm keeping track of the time.
Well, I can
It's
say it
almost
right there.
8:30. It's almost
Okay.
8:30. Okay.
All right. So what ended up happening, like I said, so the defense attorney and him, and they were just kind of like, oh, the judge is biased. Wah, wah, wah. And what the judge ended up doing was like, yeah, well, I hear your plea, and hey, let's replace the prosecutor instead. So, so that's what he did. So as it ended up, he actually got guilty of 52 counts of murder, death sentence for each and every one of them. They end up being like basically what they did. So they gave him essentially 52 death sentences. Now, one of the parents of one of the victims, when they were still in court, he actually ended up throwing something at Andrei Chikatilo. It was like kind of a big chunk of metal or something. He ends up throwing it at Chikatilo, which hit him. And then they were going to arrest the person that threw it, but all the other family members like gathered around that person and like prevented them from like arresting that person. So October 14th of I believe it's 1990 or 1991. So it took them 2 days to read all of the murder victims, because like I said, this was 52 cases. So it took them all of one day and then into the next day to read all of the charges against the dude because there were so many. He ends up being guilty of 52 of the 53 murders that he was, accused of, and he was found guilty for each one of them. Now, when he got the sentence of guilty, and when the judge was basically like, yeah, you deserve to die for this shit, he had a little bit of a little tantrum in his little cage, kicking the bench and being like, I'm innocent, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay. Nobody wanted to hear that shit. So they asked him if he wanted to make a speech. He would not. He didn't say anything. And January 4th, 1994, and at this point, the Soviet Union had fallen. And, so Boris Yeltsin was in power.
I remember that. Yeah.
And they gave him an opportunity to give Andrei Chikatilo a, appeal for clemency or, due to life sentence instead of death penalty. Boris Yeltsin said, no, let's not. So February 14th of 1994, Valentine's Day, I don't know about Russia, but it is in the United States. They took Chikatilo to a soundproof room in the prison and just fucking shot him.
Damn.
In the side of the head.
That was the cheap way of doing
They
it.
didn't fuck it around.
Nope.
I mean,
Fuck the gas chamber. Just pow.
Just pop. They just popped him
Yeah.
in the fucking head and shot him, and that's how
Yeah.
they did.
It's cheaper.
It is.
Yeah, it's cheap,
I mean,
yeah.
when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, you can't feel too bad for this guy.
No, fuck that dude.
Pretty much.
Fuck that dude. Anything else in the aftermath?
Not really. I
All
mean,
right.
like I said, they made a movie and
Yeah.
it's on YouTube if you want to watch it because I watched most of it today. It's called Citizen X. Stephen Ray is in it. Donald Sutherland is in it. And it's about this case, fairly accurate. They tried to keep it close to the actual case. And it's actually pretty good. I heard it was made for TV. I don't really know because, like I said, there was a lot of swearing in it, so I don't know how it was made for TV because there's a lot of people saying "fuck" in it. But it was actually pretty good. Look at you getting all. He's getting all like fucking.
Well, I'm not getting all. What are we talking? What am I getting?
Because you're
all?
like.
No.
You're moving around.
Clean off my glasses.
Oh, okay, I thought you were like trying to be like.
No. Clean off my glasses.
Stop it.
So, what you guys got to say? You guys got anything to say about the show? Any questions? If you guys got any questions, now is the time.
Yeah, it was actually now that I think about it, it was an HBO movie. So it wasn't like made for TV. It was made for HBO, which you can swear on that show.
Yeah, people saying that they saw the show. All right, then. Well, that was a good show. And if you guys like the show, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. And Jen and I, when we're going to see him, we'll see him when.
We will probably do another live stream tomorrow because we're going to review that movie that we watched.
Yeah, okay. We're going to do a movie review tomorrow.
Because we watched a new horror movie last night. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Yeah.
But we'll review it tomorrow.
We're going to do it tomorrow. We will see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, probably like 2, probably 3, actually. So we don't have to get up too early.
All right. Okay, see you guys tomorrow.
Holy crap, we've been on for almost 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. I think I got all my shit in.
You did, yeah. It's all in there.
Awesome.
It's all in there.
I was nervous about the last show that we did because I feel like we didn't talk about most of the show.
No, man, fucking this is a long fucking show.
But I feel like this one,
long fucking show.
This is good.
It's a good show. They're good. They're saying, "Oh, this is a great show."
I think I got most of the shit in.
Yeah.
I got most of the information.
We got it in there.
As drunk as I am.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Let me go cook. Let me go cook.
All right. Tom wants to go cook some dinner because it's where we are in Florida. It's 8:30 p.m. at the moment. Man, look, he's already leaving.
Oh, I'm getting out of here.
All right. So
I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this.
Like, share, subscribe, share with all your friends on social media. Do whatever you do. If you want to subscribe to the Patreon, we have a Patreon page. We have a blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com. If you want to give a PayPal donation, it would be much appreciated. And we will see you tomorrow. We're going to do a movie review, probably a matinee live. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.